Lay down your head and look to your window. Where do you go when it's not where you're going? How do you see when the light is not shining? Where you could be if you worked out the time. How does it feel when the world comes on so real and true? Do you do the things you do to you? If I were a king and you were a lady, what would I say to say what I'm saying? Would you believe when the verse is left open, holding my sleeve? It's brown and it's broken. How does it feel when the world comes on so real and true? Do you do the things you do to you? Tell me a river, and I'll skate away. downstream, where we did play. So easy-minded, like a hill on the skyline, tripped up and blinded, until lost on the sidelines. How does it feel when the world comes on so real and true? Do you do the things you do to you? How do you do the things you do to you? How do you do the things you do to you? Everything went from bad to worse, we never changed the thing. If that fire tracking was down, at least I think it would sing. Now somebody had to give her hand when time began. I know you're long gone, I know it was up to you. If I'd have thought about it, I never would have done it. I guess I would have let it slide. If I paid attention to what others was thinking, the heart inside me would have died. I was just too stubborn to ever be governed by enforced insanity. Someone had to reach for the rising star, I knew it was up to Steve. When the Union Central's putting out, the orchids are in bloom. I've only got me one good shrub left, and it smells of stale perfume. In 14 months, I only smiled once, and I didn't do it consciously. Someone had to find your trail. I knew it was up to you. It was like a revelation when you betrayed me with your touch. I'm just about convinced myself that nothing will change that much. The old armor and the iron mask, he slipped me the master key. Someone had to unlock your heart, he said it was up to you. I met somebody face to face, I had to remove my hat. He's everything I need in love, but I can't be swayed by that. It frightens me, the awful truth of how sweet life can be. Someone had to toe the line, I knew it was up to me. The only decent thing I did when I worked as a postal clerk was to hold a picture down off the wall near the page where I used to work. Was I a fool not to try and protect your real identity? You looked a little burned out, my friend, and I thought it would be up to you. We heard the song on the mount, we knew it was too complex. Well, it didn't amount to anything more than a different layers of words. When you bite off more than you can chew, you got to pay the penalty. You looked a little burned out, my friend, and I thought it might be up to you. All deep and penitent to the Thunderbird Cafe, where I was so to talk to you and to look the other way. Now I just can't rest without your love. I need your company. Someone had to pay the price. I knew it was up to you. There's a note left in the bottle. You can give it to a star. When she's the one we've been wondering about, there isn't much to tell. We both heard voices for a while, and the rest is history. Someone had to find a pair, and it was up to you. So go on, boys, lay your hands, life is a pantomime. The leaders in the county seat say there isn't all that much time. Now the girl with me, behind the shade, she ain't my property. All of us had to hit the road, I know it was up to you. And if we never meet again, baby, remember me. Now my little guitar plays sweet for you, that old time melody. The harmonica around my neck, I'll work for you free. No one else can play that tune, you know it was up to me. My heart had lived your orchestra, and I can to me. A lute's gentle song reveals the soul of the light. And but for a heart that feels much more than can tell. Though love and song may fail alas to keep life's clouds away, at least my life so face and even if cares at moments a discord of life's happy only love that gently touch the strings again. Only love that gently touch the strings. Well, fantastic sentiment, friends. There's no denying it. And yeah, my guitar tuning wasn't so sweet, nor my voice maybe. But as usual, caught between singing out loud and singing softly and singing with a microphone or without, So it's all about finding a balance. And well, wherein does that balance lie? Well, within love, maybe. And find that resonance. Love for one, love for all. Who knows what's the real story attached to our predicament here? However you want to describe it. Yeah. So how you doing? I said I'd do a hangout, and funny enough, I started as the last hangout I ended abruptly. It's just like a telephone conversation ending abruptly for whatever reason. But yeah, I continued where I left off. So I sang the whole of the song that I meant to sing at the last. And in fairness, it was pretty late the last time as well. I tried not to get too carried away tonight, and maybe chat about a few pertinent things. I definitely have two things to do, and I'm going to get to them pretty immediately. And otherwise, listen. Isis, fair play to Isis the last time for coming on and having a conversation. He had to go when he had to go because if he had stayed around, I guess there would have been too much quizzing, too many difficult questions. But I think he said a hell of a lot, and I must listen back. I haven't listened back, which I don't tend to normally, but yeah, certainly a good conversation. And it's sort of everything has to be taken within a greater context. And Isis is one of the characters. Oh, baller boy, I said it to his face. I don't think about that. I haven't seen his. I think I've seen his dog. If he's in chat tonight, come in again, man. I'll probably go on for not so long tonight, maybe about 4 hours, because up in court tomorrow at 2:23. I thought it was today. For some reason, I thought it was a Monday, but it turns out to be a Tuesday. So 2:23, and that's significant in its own way. Because I've been talking about 422-year-old Earth. 2021 begins. The real new year begins April 1st, and then Earth will be 423. And with the divided state, we have 223 and 223, which is 423. And number 23 should be especially significant. Remember the movie not with Jim Carrey, specifically titled 23, but also chromosome pairs in terms of our own basic makeup or basic structure, So yeah, very significant. And then when we come to a flat Earth sense, and well, when you come to the sense that I'm talking about, anyway, this divided state of us and the spiraling passion, well, maybe everything, ultimately, maybe possibly everything for a reason. Every single thing, every single thing. How about that? No matter how insignificant or how transient it is something they seem, well, in a sense, it's taking you to where you are right now, and where that is on the Peach channel if you're listening live. If you're not listening live, I don't know where the fuck you are. Um, I should have said cheers, salute, Longta, best wishes, love to everybody, of course. Apologies for that, and I should make a toast. So generally, if there was people around having a drink for the first time, I generally suggest someone make a toast, and if no one was forthcoming, I'd make a toast myself or something like that. But well, silence is golden sometimes. So after three long songs, well, medium songs, that's a nice whistle weather, and I'm sure you'll appreciate the silence. Yeah, well, how you doing, friends? The first song I played there was the Downstream by a band called Ocean Color Scene. I'm well used to blasting that out on the. Well, I was mad. I haven't been busking in a few weeks. Even though I've been down to the river. I was down to the river today just uh, not that I don't intend to go back in busking, even though it's very quiet. That's not the point. But I'll just see how things go from tomorrow. In essence, in potential, I could easily be in exactly the same fucking. I could easily see it happening, which is, I guess I'll deal with that. But I can easily see myself going through the exact same process, being charged with contempt of court or something for expressing my rights or expressing my voice in all of this. So you can easily see that being the case tomorrow, because the minute you refuse a corona test, you're straight into quarantine anyway. So if I started eating this time around, well, that would be a crime. That would be a sin, maybe. While I'm comfortable with the whole uh, series of events here. No, but yeah, I'm not going to dwell on that. I have a few things sort of getting to. Yeah, the last hangout, I ended up with the Downstream, and I just got a verse out, and then terminated. So here we are, starting the day as it ends, so it begins, right? So we're starting the new hangout with that, and the second song I sang to me by Bob Dylan. The middle C is still gone out of my harmonica. The shops haven't opened yet, as far as I know. So no chance of getting string, except online, I guess, strings and harmonica. So the middle C is gone. But I hope the song came across okay. And the last effort then was My Heart and Lute. And funny enough, I didn't know. I knew. And now that just in even relatively recent sort of findings, research, My Heart and Lute plays a very significant part in everything. I knew it anyway, but it's mentioned in association with Sherlock Holmes, if you want to type that into your Google search. But it's also mentioned in uh, and many other references of significance, of great significance. This is all a game of clues, and it is all a game of clues. All roads lead to ARISTARCHUS. I didn't realize that My Heart and Lute was so significant. It had already been put to music. So I listened to for the first time, or maybe I did it in the past and I didn't pay too much attention to it. But yeah, I listened to. I wouldn't say I was quite embarrassed when I was singing my version there, but I listened to a quartet who did an excellent job of My Heart and Lute, different than mine, but there isn't a world of difference there in it. But I wasn't influenced by them. But there was four of them, and there was lots of different harmonies going along. I prefer my version, but yeah, uh, that's the third offering there, and that's been a consistent part now of my hangouts for no matter what anyone thinks, no matter how sick of it you are, I still sing it because, well, of its greater significance. And I guess you have to be sort of reading the story. It means nothing to anybody beyond a certain point, I'm thinking. And, you know, it does mean something to somebody, though, because the story is written. We're reading the story. And yeah, that's the third song, and I heard it for the first time. I'm impressed. What the arrangement and different harmonies, etc., had to offer up. But at the same time, I prefer my own version, and well, my version being in a different context. The context of flat Earth changed everything. Right? Everything was sort of leading up to flat Earth. Come to realize, um, if you think of your own pathway here, you know, I'm sure it's similar for so many people, right? But we should set in that, especially post 9/11, when the internet really took off. All of this information, or these information centers, I guess, and especially in a cooperative way, you had the ability now to interact. So yeah, when they were all offered to us, and in a big sense, vast libraries at our fingertips. So yeah, then the pathway really sort of expanded out. And if we were paying attention, I guess we were asking questions. Yeah, you're inexorably led into conspiracy world. Where does it ultimately lead? Well, flat Earth is a massive juncture point. It's a massive. Ultimately, it's when we think of the basic questions. We think of the basic questions of life, the universe, and everything. The questions a child would ask, the question an old man would still ask, a woman, or trying to hear. Well, they're the same questions. Put them in chat if you can reduce them down. So the simplest of questions, right? So it's the simplest of questions that pose the most, the greatest of hurdles in terms of trying to answer or come to terms. With an answer, it's not even with an answer. I guess you're constantly trying to answer the question yourself throughout your life. Basic, very first questions you ask when you're cognizant, the last questions you ask when you're close to the opposite, whatever that means. So yeah, have we made any inroads? I think this is what religion is about. I think this is what the Jesus character is about. I think it's what all the characters are about, even up to and including all the characters playing the part within this flat Earth arena, and the greater theater, the greater artifice. Yeah, ultimately leading us, the individual, towards the greater truth. And what is that greater truth? Well, you tell me. You tell me. If you give me an answer, I might give you an answer, right? But if you say, well, I don't get your answer, but I can't suggest anything beyond that, I'd say, well, okay, that's fair enough. But if you give me an answer, and I'd say, well, I can suggest something beyond that because I thought about that answer ages ago. For instance, if you said, well, flat Earth is good enough, that's all I need to know. You live in a flat, stationary Earth. That's fair enough. But I have a question and indeed offer an answer beyond flat Earth. So yeah, how you doing? I have a couple of things to do. Not a couple of things to do. I meant to. Sorry, I got talking about Zeiss's there, but the last time I meant to spend the whole show on it. I meant because it definitely could merit that because it really connects everything. So we're looking for something that connects everything, and this was one of the things that really connected everything. And I'll go through that after I play. Most important, I think. I've listened to it a couple of times now, maybe more than a couple, maybe 3 or 4 times even, and I have more times to listen to it. I know it's all fabricated; it's all part of the greater sort of script you are, right? And when the time is right, we were always meant to come along the pathway. So we know more now than what we knew then, and I think very well put. And it'll be said in the video I play that it's about knowledge and faith. So garnering knowledge and faith is the purpose of everything. And what's faith about? Faith, well, think of the word itself, Faith, Faith. So it's an instruction, Faith. It's a statement. Word is a statement, Faith, Fath is father, er, Father, faith, right? Yeah, this is coming, ultimately flat earth related, coming away from materialism, coming away from determinism, coming away from absolutism, where everything is decided by the giants of science. The greatest minds have been working on this for centuries on end. And here we are in this culmination zone, in this 0 point. as being the most advanced in the whole of Earth's, chaotic history. So yeah, that's the backdrop. That's the scenario. That's the panorama presented. But yeah, once again, context. The context is different, and yeah, flat Earth, like the rest of the stuff, was handed to us on a plate. So therefore, there's a different context to be extracted or to be had from all of our thinking beyond a certain point. We know that whatever progress you make, it's known. There's nothing that's not known. So wherever you place yourself, um, yeah, whenever you place yourself, however you place yourself, back to the basic questions again, that's down to you. That's down to you. I was just thinking earlier on, this is where Corona comes into. This is where Corona changes everything because the Earth has never seen anything like Corona. Um, yeah, therein lies the hope. Therein lies the hope. And if you remember Zeiss's conversation last time, his panorama, his backdrop, as he presents it anyway, is against the evolutionary um, tale of Earth and all life on Earth. And this is the backdrop. And it's basically dog eat dog. And it's done in a sort of corporate manner with shirts and ties, more so now than in a more brutal manner, even if brutality exists. And the best a man can do is navigate within the brutality, right? See, this is where, as I say, Corona changes everything. Ultimately, flat Earth changes everything. And of course, both are connected. Corona, let's flatten the curve. But flat Earth in itself is a psyop, right? So the surface we live on is flat. You can be viewed as flat and stationary, but it's not really. It's not really. Earth itself is something different. And the best we can do as the living spirit, right? The living soul. And within what I'm going to present here, yeah, it gets to certain distinctions. And I look forward to listening to it again. I'll put it on fairly shortly, even before I go to chat. And because I meant to play it last time, and I meant to play it, and I talked about it. So it goes into these distinctions. So when we listen to it, and I think it's all sort of public, common play as well. So there's no, I'm not selling anything here. This is for our own educational purposes and faith-based. I guess it is a faith-based progress for me anyway. It's understanding there's a greater story, there's a greater power in play. So everything for a reason. If the creator allows a world full of lies, well, that lie has to be for necessary purposes. There has to be necessary intent behind it because even though we're in the midst of the story, yeah, we cannot encompass the story, at least up to this point. And maybe this is the whole point of making our way towards the end of the story, to the final act. Yet we can encompass the greater storyteller. We don't know the intents behind that. Maybe that's the whole purpose. And this is what this is what we're being facilitated in now because the time is right. And I'll talk a little bit about April 1st this year as well. So that's when the Earth will be 423 years old, the real new year. I'm told that the Earth itself was created um, on April 1st. So in the end, there shall you find the beginning. 3 days after April 1st, we have April 4th, which is 4/4, which is half of 8/8, right? Which is Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday, Ishtar Sunday, Ishtar, I-Star Sunday, ARISTARCHUS Sunday. Tree of Life has been cut. So, and also another interesting round number is 100 days from the 25th of December, which is the birth of Christ, the Son of Man, the divided state of man, to, death and resurrection on April 4th, 100 days, which is 10/10, which is I-O. So, yeah, while so I'll do that. I'll do it immediately while I have a cigarette. I'm not on. Look, as you know by now, I can stay on for hours, and I'm going to stay on for a few hours, but not too many. No particular schedule. I get through the things I have to get through, and play a few songs in the meantime. And talk about a few things. Um, so let me share the screen. before I go into chat. So I haven't listened to this. So I was talking about it last time. I'll give you while I bring it up. I will bring you. So yeah, cheers. Okay, let me find the. Okay, here we go.
The Secret Book of James.
So you got to see, guessed it by now. The Apocrypha, Secret Book of James, and so I mentioned it the last time. So just to give you, okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, why I'm presenting this, and it's 16 minutes long. So listen to it throughout. I'm going to leave it on throughout anyway. So if you're not interested, turn it on. But yeah, I thought the Gospel of Thomas was the final instruction. Within the Gospel of Thomas, there's a certain quote, and I never got to even read finished. So many things I should have got to. I never got to even read. I got to read five of the Gospel of Thomas, secret sayings of Jesus. But one of them further on was that the disciples were asking generally, what will we do after you depart, Master? And basically, Jesus' answer was, follow James the righteous. Now, if you look at the description in the hangout tonight, it's ARICHUS, ARISTARCHUS, right? So breaking it up into three parts, it's ARICHUS star, ARICHUS, but cus can be just or cus. So it's ARICHUS star. ARISTARCHUS is a righteous star, perfectly matched phonically. And from the Gospel of Thomas, the final instruction, almost to a direct question, was to follow James the righteous, and it's for his sake that creation was brought into being. It always brought into being. That stuck with me. Who's James the righteous? And I'm a terrible researcher. I keep saying that. Terrible researcher. I think when it comes to me, it will come to me or whatever. But James is associated with the brother of Jesus. The younger brother has to be, obviously, or maybe not, but it has to be, right? Mary and Joseph, as the story goes. Anyway. So James the righteous, but maybe it's pointing to James, the book of James here. And in some ways, it's sort of telling us that this is the case because it justifies other aspects of the Bible, or especially the New Testament and the story of Jesus, which at this point we obviously expected to have come beyond the literal. I have understood that it's not literal. There's deeper layers to reality than just the literal. If all there was a literal, well, then all there would be the human experience. No, that's not it. We are greater. We live forever, friends. We have an experience here. And the whole purpose of this experience is should we ask the right questions? Should we ask the basic questions? What can we make progress towards answers? And once again, this is where Corona comes into it. Let me turn up I think the volume's okay at 50. And let me put it full screen. So I definitely worth giving your attention for 10, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 16 minutes. I'm going to give it my secondary attention. I've heard it a few times. But this is what I've been meaning to play. One of the things I've been meaning to play over the past past show, especially past show or two, because, is it the last step? I'm thinking it might be very, 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 very close to it. Very, very close to it. So I say pay close attention. I say that to myself as well. And okay, well, to put the basics down for consideration as we're listening to the new word, it's our state, the divided state of man, right? Male from female, self from self, in aspiring fashion. When Jesus talks about filling and lacking, we are lacking. We are drained, if you want, in terms of true superstructure, true natural, in natural inverted commas, natural form. We've been torn apart. So when you're torn apart, the fluids gather, the fluids pool somewhere. And as I say, in males, as I've said many times, in males it's in the testicles, in the females it's the breasts, right? So we're ultimately male and female combined in a spiraling fashion. around the ultimate spine, to be or not to be. We have the three centers. The material, which is the gut center, the immaterial, which is the brain center, and then the bridge between the immaterial and the material, which is the heart center. And the heart is broken. So I think it's within this context, within a flat Earth enclosed. Obviously, this is obviously within a flat Earth enclosed context. Sort of a special relationship to the enclosed and personal universe, and well, the greater or higher power beyond. Yeah, that's sort of taken for granted that we're at this point, and yeah, lots of clues given for that as well. So yeah, let me put it on and let's hear what you hear.
The secret book or apocryphon of James is a text presented rather like the letter of Peter to Philip, within the frame of an introductory letter, as a secret book with sayings of Jesus that his followers remembered. According to the text, this is the second such secret book that James sent. The letter of James is addressed to someone whose name is preserved imperfectly in the papyrus, with only the final three letters, in Coptic or Greek, visible. Some scholars have suggested the name or the recipient of the letter may be restored to designate Cerinthus, a Christian teacher who flourished in the early 2nd century and who proclaimed a Christology similar to the view of Jesus in the secret book of James. The secret book of James. James writes to, "Peace be with you from peace, love from love, grace from grace, faith from faith, life from holy life." James' secret books. "You have asked me to send you a secret book revealed to Peter and me by the Master, and I could not turn you down, nor could I speak to you. So I have written in Hebrew, and have sent it to you and to you alone. But since you are a minister of the salvation of the saints, try to be careful not to reveal to many people this book that the Savior did not want to reveal even to all of us, his 12 students. Nonetheless, those who will be saved through the faith of this treatise will be blessed. 10 months ago, I sent you another secret book that the Savior revealed to me. Think of that book as revealed to me, James. But this one." Jesus addresses Peter and James. Now the 12 students were all sitting together, recalling what the Savior had said to each of them, whether in a hidden or an open manner, and organizing it in books. "I was writing what is in my book. Look, the Savior appeared after he had left us while we were watching for him. 550 days after he rose from the dead, we said to him, 'Did you depart and leave us?' Jesus said, 'No, but I shall return to the place from which I came. If you want to come with me, come.' They all answered and said, 'If you order us, we shall come.' He said, 'I tell you the truth, no one will ever enter the kingdom of heaven because I ordered it, but rather because you yourselves are filled. Leave James and Peter to me, that I may fill them.' When he called the two of them, he took them aside and commanded the rest to keep doing what they were doing. The Savior said, 'You have been treated kindly, have not been understood. Do you not want to be filled? Your hearts are drunk. Do you not want to be sober? You ought to be ashamed. From now on, awake or sleep, remember that you have seen the human Son, and have spoken with him and have listened to him. Shame on those who have seen the human Son. Blessings will be on you who have not seen him, or associated with him, or spoken with him, or listened to anything from him. Yours is life. Understand that he healed you when you were sick, that you might reign. Shame on those who have found relief from their sickness, for they will relapse into sickness. Blessings on you who have not been sick, and have known relief before getting sick. The kingdom of God is yours. So I tell you, be filled and leave no space in you empty, or he who is coming will mock you. Being filled and lacking. Then Peter answered, 'Look, 3 times you have told us, be filled, but we are filled.' The Savior answered and said, 'For this reason I have told you, be filled, that you may not lack. Those who lack will not be saved. To be filled is good, and to lack is bad. Yet since it is also good for you to lack, but bad for you to be filled, whoever is filled also lacks. One who lacks is not filled in the way another who lacks is filled, but whoever is filled is brought to an appropriate end. So you should lack when you can fill yourselves, and be filled when you lack, that you may be able to fill yourselves more. Be filled with spirit, but lack in reason, for reason is of the soul. It is soul. Believe in my cross. I answered and said to him, Master, we can obey you if you wish, for we have forsaken our fathers and our mothers and our villagers and followed you. Give us the means not to be tempted by the evil devil. The master answered and said, What good is it to you if you do the Father's will? But you are not given your part of his bounty when you are tempted by Satan. But if you are oppressed by Satan and persecuted and do the Father's will, I say he will love you, make you my equal, and consider you beloved through his forethought, and by your own choice. Won't you stop loving the flesh and fearing suffering? Don't you know that you have not yet been abused, unjustly accused, locked in prison, unlawfully condemned, crucified without reason, or buried in the sand, as I myself was by the evil one? Do you dare to spare the flesh, O you for whom the Spirit is walls surrounding you? If you consider how long the world has existed before you, and how long it will exist after you, you will see that your life is but a day, and your suffering an hour. The good will not enter the world. Disdain death then, and care about life. Remember my cross and my death, and you will live. I answered and said to him, Master, do not mention to us the cross and the death, for they are far from you. The master answered and said, I tell you the truth, none will be saved unless they believe in my cross, for the kingdom of God belongs to those who have believed in my cross. Be seekers of death then, like the dead who seek life, for what they seek becomes apparent to them, and what is there to cause them concern? As for you, when you search out death, it will teach you about being chosen. I tell you the truth, no one afraid of death will be saved, for the kingdom of death belongs to those who are put to death. Become better than I, be like the child of the Holy Spirit. Be eager for the word. Then I asked, Master, can we prophesy to those who ask us to prophesy to them? There are many who bring a request to us and look to us to hear our pronouncement. The master answered and said, Do you not know that the head of the prophecy was cut off with John? But I said, Master, is it not impossible to remove the head of prophecy? The master said to me, When you realize what head means, and that prophecy comes from the head, then understand the meaning of its head was removed. First I spoke with you in parables, and you did not understand. Now I am speaking with you openly, and you do not grasp it. Nevertheless, you were for me a parable among parables, and a disclosure among things revealed. Be eager to be saved without being urged. Rather be fervent of your own, and if possible, outdo even me, for this is how the Father will love you. Come to hate hypocrisy and evil intention. Intention becomes hypocrisy, and hypocrisy is far from truth. Do not let the kingdom of heaven wither away. It is like a palm shoot whose dates dropped around it. It produces buds, and after they grew, its productivity dried up. This is also what happened with fruit that came from the single root. After it was harvested, fruit was obtained by many. It certainly was good. Is it not possible to produce a new growth now, and for you to find it? Since I was glorified like this once before, why do you hold me back when I am eager to go? After my labor, you have made me stay with you another 18 days because of the parables. For some people it was enough to listen to the teaching and understood. The shepherds, the seed, the building, the lamps of the young women, the wage of the workers, and the silver coins in the woman. Be eager for the word. The first aspect of the word is faith. The second is love. The third is works, and from these comes life. The word is like a grain of wheat. When someone sowed it, he had faith in it, and when it sprouted, he loved it, because he saw many grains instead of just one. And after he worked, he was saved because he prepared it as food, and he still kept some out to sow. This is also how you can acquire the kingdom of heaven for yourself. Unless you acquire it through knowledge, you will not be able to find it. Understand the light. So I say to you, be sober, do not go astray. And often have I said you all together, and also to you alone, James, be saved. I have commanded you to follow me, and I have taught you how to speak before the rulers, so that I have come down and have spoken, and have become exerted myself, and have won my crown when I saved you. I came down to live with you, so you might also live with me. And when I found that your houses had no roofs, I lived in houses that could receive me when I came down. Trust me, my brothers, understand what the great light is. The Father does not need me. A father does not need a son, but it is the Son who needs the Father. To him I am going, for the Father of the Son is not in need of you. Listen to the word, understand knowledge, love life, and no one will persecute you, and no one will oppress you other than you yourselves. Shame on you. Blessings on you. You wretches, you losers, you pretenders to truth, you falsifiers of knowledge, you sinners against the Spirit. Do you still dare to listen when from the beginning you should have been speaking? Do you still dare to sleep when from the beginning you should have been awake so the kingdom of heaven might receive you? I tell you the truth, it is easier for a holy person to sink into defilement and for an enlightened person to sink into darkness than for you to reign or not to reign. I remember your tears, your mourning, and your grief. They are far from us. You who are outside the Father's inheritance, weep when you should, mourn and preach what is good, as is proper, the Son is ascending. I tell you the truth, if I had been sent to those who would listen to me and had spoken with them, I would never have come down to earth. Now be ashamed. Look, I shall be leaving you and go away. I do not want to stay with you any longer, just as you yourselves have not wanted this. Follow me quickly, I tell you, for you I came down. You are loved ones. You will bring life to many people. Invoke the Father. Pray to God frequently, and he will be generous with you. Blessings on one who has seen you with him, when he is proclaimed among the angels and glorified among the saints. Yours is life. Rejoice and be glad as children of God. Observe his will that it may be saved. Accept correction from me and save yourselves. I am meditating for you with the Father, and he will forgive you many things. Few find the kingdom of heaven. When we heard this, we were delighted. We had become gloomy because of what we said earlier, but when we saw us happy, he said, Shame on you who are in need of an advocate. Shame on you who stand in need of grace. Blessings will be on those who have spoken out and acquired grace for themselves. Compare yourself to foreigners. How are they viewed in your city? Why are you anxious to banish yourselves on your own and distance yourself from your city? Why abandon your dwelling on your own and make it available for those who want to live in it? O you exiles and runaways, shame on you. You will be captured. Or maybe you think that the Father is a lover of people, or that he is won over by prayers, or that he is gracious to one because of another, or that he tolerates whoever is seeking. He knows about desire and what the flesh needs. Does it not desire the soul? The body does not sin apart from the soul, just as the soul is not saved apart from the spirit. But if the soul is saved from evil, and the spirit too is saved, the body becomes sinless. The spirit animates the soul, but the body kills it. The soul kills itself. I tell you the truth, he will never forgive the sin of the soul, or the guilt of the flesh, for none of those who have worn the flesh will be saved. Do you think that many have found the kingdom of heaven? Blessings on one who has seen oneself as a fourth one in heaven. Know yourselves. When we heard this, we became sad. But when he saw that we were sad, he said, I say this to you that you may know yourselves. The kingdom of heaven is like a head of grain that sprouted into a field, and when it was ripe, it scattered its seed. And again it filled the field with heads of grain for another year. So with you, be eager to harvest for yourselves a head of grain of life, that you may be filled with the kingdom. As long as I am with you, pay attention to me and trust in me. But when I am afar from you, remember me. And remember me because I was with you and you did not know me. Blessings will be on those who have known me. Shame on those who have heard and have not believed. Blessings will be on those who have not seen but yet believe. And once again I appeal to you. I am disclosed to you as I am building a house useful to you when you find shelter in it, and it will support your neighbor's house when there is threats to collapse. I tell you the truth, shame on those for whom I was sent down here. Blessings will be on those who are going up to the Father. Again I warn you, you who are, be like those who are not, that you may be with those who are not. Do not let the kingdom of heaven become a desert within you. Do not be proud because of the light that enlightens. Rather act toward yourselves as I myself have toward you. I have put myself under a curse for you to save you. The last word. Peter responded to these comments and said, sometimes you urge us toward the kingdom of heaven, but at other times you turn us away, Master. Sometimes you encourage us, draw us toward faith and promise of life, but at other times you drive us away from the kingdom of heaven. The Master answered and said to us, I have offered you faith many times, and have revealed myself to you, James, and you have not known me. Now I see you often rejoicing, and although you are delighted about the promise of life, you are sad and gloomy when you are taught about the kingdom. Nevertheless, you through faith and knowledge have received life, so disregard rejection when you hear it. But when you hear about the promise, be joyful all the more. I tell you the truth, whoever will receive life and believe in the kingdom will never leave it, not even if the Father wants to banish him. This is all I shall tell you at this time. Now I shall ascend to the place from which I have come. When I was eager to go, you have driven me off, and instead of accompanying me, you have chased me away. Be attentive to the glory that awaits me, and when you have opened your hearts, listen to the hymns that await me up in heaven. Today I must take my place at the right hand of my Father. I have spoken my last word to you. I shall depart from you, for a chariot of spirit has carried me up, and from now on I shall strip that I may be clothed. Pay attention. Blessings on those who have proclaimed the Son before he come down, so that when I did come I might ascend. Blessing 3 times over those who were proclaimed by the Son before they came into being, so that they might share with him. The messengers dispersed. When he said this, he left. We knelt down, Peter and I, and gave thanks and sent our hearts up to heaven. We heard with our ears and saw with our eyes a noise of wars, a trumpet blast, and great turmoil. When we passed beyond that place, we sent out our minds up further. We saw with our eyes and heard with our ears hymns, angelic praises, and angelic rejoicing. Heavenly majesties were singing hymns, and we rejoiced too. Again, after this, we wished to send our spirits up to the majesty. When we ascended, we were not allowed to see or hear anything. The other students called to us and asked, "What did you hear from the teacher? What did he tell you? Where did he go?" We answered them, "He ascended. He gave us his right hand and promised all of us life. He showed us children coming after us, having commanded us to love them, since we are to be saved for their sakes." When they heard this, they believed the revelation, but they were angered about those who would be born. Not wishing to give them reason to take offense, I sent each of them to a different location. I myself went up to Jerusalem, praying that I might acquire a share with the loved ones who are to come. I pray that the beginning may come from you. This is how I can be saved. They will be enlightened through me, by my faith, and through another's that is better than mine. I wish mine to be the lesser. Do your best to be like them, and pray that you may acquire a share with them. Beyond what I have said, the Savior did not disclose any revelation to us on their behalf. We proclaim a share with those for whom the messenger was proclaimed, those whom the Lord has made his children. So ends the secret book of James.
Well. That's so interesting, isn't it? And especially within the different contexts, right? So none of these characters existed, so you notice how they all sort of. So James vouches for Peter, both of them vouch for the 12. So it's a self-referential. And we were always meant to, this text is meant for you who has seen beyond, well, once again, the literal. And it's meant for you alone. That's what I think. And this is and even the parting gesture there, this is the truth, the whole truth. I think this is the final instruction that the Gospel of Thomas was. But I'm just saying, the Gospel of Thomas features 114 secret sayings, so you got a lot to choose from. And the very last saying is very, very interesting as well. And well, for me, my thinking, which is I'm the one who's doing the expressing here, but yeah, ultimately it comes back to us. Jesus is within us, right? Jesus is us. Jesus is the donor, the divided state of us. And when we talk about the fall, when we talk about when he talks about the lacking and the filling, it's an all-encompassing term. There's so much I could talk about, or at least give my thoughts on. But I wanted to play it in its entirety, but a few things struck out, and that is the relationship between the soul. I've often pointed out soul is you, Sol. You, Sol, and your other half is you, Sol, as well. So it's soul and soul, soulmate. Each soul separately is a divided unnatural aspect of the spirit. So I think that this hierarchy is stressed. And remember in the Gospels we're told as well, you can, and actually it was very interesting that even if you offend the Father in heaven, he can kick you out. That was an interesting, what do you call it? Because I guess we have to decide who the Father is. And just the interrelationship between the Father and the Son, and what they might mean in a greater overarching sort of representative symbolic way. you as a male representing all males, and you as a female representing all females of the kind. So it occurred to me to sing this song on the back of that, because ultimately I think they're on the same page, even though one comes from a religious backdrop and the other comes from a more mystical backdrop. At least the song as a whole, anyway. The first and the last aspects, maybe I combined the two. Um, Maybe to combine the two, because ultimately it's all one and the same, which is the mystical and the religious. So it's from the main body of the song is from W. Yeats' poem, "The Love Song of Wandering Aengus." Is it the love song or the song? Maybe it's just the song. I think it's the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. I mind reading that again. Maybe I'll read that again. But the love song or the song of Wandering Aengus, and the attaching that to the beginning and the end is you can't even. It's a religious hymn we learned in school. And I think it's appropriate. So just against that backdrop, let me provide this contrast and say I consider them in sort of similar lights. So, come to the waters, you who are thirsty, though I have nothing, I bid you come. To be filled with the gladness I have to offer. Come, let's live. I went down to the hazel road, because the fire was in my head. I cut and peeled that hazel wand, and hope I buried to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing, and moth-like stars were flickering out, I threw the berry in the stream, and hope the little silver trout. When I had laid on the floor, I went to blow the fire flame, and something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair. She called me by my name and vanished in the bright air. I am only wandering through hollow land and hilly land. I will find out where she has gone, kiss her lips and hold her hands, and walk among long dappled grass, and pluck till time is done. The silver apples are gone, the golden apples are the sun. On to to the water, you who I first knew. Though I am nothing, I bid you come to be filled with the gladness I have to offer. Come, listen, live. There's a tempest brewing outside, and the tempest reminds me of Shakespeare's most, who's his final play, as is credited to him historically. And would you believe that the date attributed to that offering, 1611? Now, in as much as I can follow the clues anyway, I'm happy enough to think that 1611, the same year that the same hands wrote the Bible and the works of Shakespeare, it's the hidden hand throughout, including up to and including whenever I don't know the history. I think if I looked into the history of Secret Book of James, it'd probably found with the Dead Sea Scrolls, something like that, and backed up again. Everything is sort of referencing everything else because first of all, it's a greater mind encoding and scripting everything. But second of all, there is it's a story with a purpose being sort of written and scripted from the start. And as we make our way through the clues, well, where do we end up? Ultimately, we end up at the at the very beginning, in a sense, asking and hoping, well, with a little bit more certainty to answer the basic questions: who are we? Where are we? Why are we? When are we? And yeah. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? The song I sang again, the song of, is it the love song or just the song of Wandering Angus? Definitely a love song, but yeah, the song of Wandering Angus by W.B. Yeats, who was a member of the Golden Dawn Society, definitely a Freemason and beyond, so an insider. I reckon the truth, my friends, is not overly complicated, and I say that in a glib manner, maybe it seems, but it's only in relation to what I think, the greater truth entails, or greater reality, or greater powers, or greater spirit. And I think everything that you've heard here, everything that I listened to here anyway, it was going through my own sieve of, that understanding, yeah. We're having an experience here, a divided nature, and the truth is there for us to sort of piece together. And all of these facilities are exactly that. They're given to us for the ultimate purpose of the honest inquirer, the truth seeker, the truther. What's a truther these days? Coming to terms. Yeah. Which was the best of times, was the worst of times. You decide what times we're in right now. But yeah, with just those two back to back, the Secret Book of James and the Song of Wandering Angus, I think there's a meeting point in the middle. What did Isis describe that as the last time? Dasham, is it? Dasham. I didn't look it up again. I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up later on during the week. The Dasham, but I'm very interested in that, especially the 0 point as well. But yeah. Any thoughts on the Secret Book of Thomas? It's all a little too convenient in a sense, isn't it? But you'll never hear the Bible literalists talking about this. All of those great truthers within this community, this tiny, small community of oppressed free thinkers, which is the Flat Earth community. You never hear lots of people talking about lots of things. Isn't that peculiar? Isn't that very peculiar? What are we to make of it? What are you to make of it? Tom Corner, jump in, Tom. Let me put a link here. Jump in. I'll put the link in chat. Jump in. I don't have too much to talk about, but if someone was interested in the 2015 Economist, you can jump in. The cover of it, that's what I'm going to go through. There's a link in chat. I'm going to go through the 2015 Economist magazine now. I could take up 8 hours in that. I definitely could, depending on the time I want to put into it. But to show how everything sort of connects or interconnects, that's a great example. It's a great juncture because it's not by no means the end of the story, but it is a pivotal, cross. X marks the spot. It's a pivotal time for so 2015. Flat Earth was just coming to its own. There was lots of great contributors who all seem to have died by the wayside, for the most part, anyway. I'd say taking up different guises, but yeah. But when you have such a expressive front cover, first of all, when you see beyond the official layer of all the world theater, and you get deeper into the flat Earth connection, and then you get deeper still into the hidden puzzle within it. Well, then it all becomes very relevant indeed. And as I just mentioned, absolutely certain the truth isn't that difficult. Only because the people that in possession of the truth are probably aware, somewhat anyway, to some degree, of or greater nature and a greater makeup of our reality here. The longer I go on, the more I have to think about all this as a construct. It's you know, it's it's something fashioned with a purpose. And if we take all of Jesus, pretty harsh Jesus there from the Gospel of James. I mean, it's one thing to be coming from an enlightened being aspect, knowing everything, and criticizing people who sort of trying their best, trying their damnedest. They've given up everything. I think they have. Did the disciples give up everything? I mean, at the end of the tour, did they go back to their wives and take 6 months off or something? Um, do you know what I mean? What was the real day to day story? I often ask that. What was the real day to day story of Jesus? Did he overindulge sometimes on his meat and fish and wine and get a bad case of diarrhea as he was traveling from from place to place? And like, did Luke, who was the toilet roll bearer for that day, that particular journey, did he remember to bring all the toilet roll in whatever fashion it was around at those times? I don't know, a few doves, a few mice maybe. No, doves would be better, I guess. No, it's just fold. Once you use one side of the dove wing, you just fold the other side. Or sparrow, yeah, because sparrows aren't apparently worth much in the Bible. Even though sparrows are lovely, all sparrows are fantastic. All animals are fantastic, right there. But they've been in lockdown. Okay, Tom, I haven't been following the usual. I haven't been following the chat. Welcome to. Let me say hello to everyone who's turned up anyway. Yeah, maybe get some good conversation going. It just depends, doesn't it? I mean, I certainly have a lot of good conversation, but where to focus it on. I'm glad I got the gospel or the secret book of James played. I played it myself or to myself on a few more occasions, I should think. But yeah, I'll definitely get through the Economist 2015 magazine, which is pivotal in all of this. And yeah, I'll before I say any more, I'll just say hi to. We'll go from the bottom up. We're here to experience massive, unstoppable doom, says Sonic Doom. Well, you know, yeah, okay, fair enough. Who deemed the doom to be the only outcome, and for what purpose then? It sort of negates our purpose. And well, you either decide whether it's a point or not. I think ultimately, as an individual, you have to decide whether there's a point or not. And I tell you, if I was a heliocentrist, if I was a science man like I was, you know, early days, I would be hopeless. I would be hopeless coming to all this conspiracy. I'd say that, like, okay, our evolutionary has come to this path, but the bad guys have taken over and they've been in charge for a certain amount of time. And what can you do about this? And speaking from personal experience as well, you get into pretty helpless situations, and you know that in potential, your life could be snuffed out at any point, any point. Let me tell you that. Not that I ever felt threatened, put in Limerick prison. I know there was definitely a few people sent over to. They were always trying to get the name, and a few inmates were pretending to be nice, and the people coming in pretended to be nice then, but always with an intent behind it to get the name or to get a picture of it or something like that. which is grand. They could easily have done it, and the fucking cameras all everywhere anyway. That's not the purpose of my dispute, or but yeah, there was always that intent. It was I call it, well, I've mentioned it before. I've only encountered mean-spirited, masked phonies. That's all I can. Even if someone's pretending to be nice, yeah. After a while, and you sort of cling to someone. You can say sort of like if you talk to 10 or 15 people during the daytime, they're all trying to get something out of you. One guy comes in then he's more reasonable than the rest. You're not going to cling to him as such, but you're going to be more sort of open up in a sense. But yeah, when you find out that it's all ulterior motive, and well, a harsh lesson to learn, but it's something that has to be done. But that's the nature of these things. So yeah, I would imagine that these type of people would have taken ultimate control, and there was no hope left. And as I mentioned earlier on, except for flattery, except for well, everything ultimately. And I say that the story is written in a different manner. And no matter how unstoppable the doom seems, well, doom can only ever be well impermanent, right? Coming away from spinning ball Earth, I'm betting if you answer the direct question, Sonic Doom, you're going to present yourself as a spinning ball earther, right? Who thinks flat earthers are dumbasses or something like that. So yeah, I certainly apply a different context, but you as an individual, you have to decide whether there is a point or there is not a point. No one else can decide that, especially in these times where I don't know. I can't even think of. I don't know what I make of myself. Make of things with on the path that I've been. Ultimately, I have an idea, but not to mind what the average individual who certainly has more time in their hands as well and has been bombarded left and right with all of this anomalous information and sort of curious thinking. I actually mentioned it to a few people today, but one of the questions, a good, excellent question these days, and I asked the same question to two guys. One guy was just bringing his dog out of the bed across the road. I said, "Isn't it funny? Do you ever find it funny that like animals, no animals are susceptible to corona? And also, if I was to ask you the question, just press the buzzer. Who has a weaker immune system in general, a child or an adult? What would you answer?" And they know there's a catch to it because the answer is too easy. It's a child, right? So, but why are not children going around wearing masks? Really interesting question. And why are no animals as well sick from corona? Lee Gunnar Edwards says corona, COVID is bollocks. Well, that bollocks landed me in isolation in the quarantine ward of Limerick Prison for a week. And I could have been out of there in a second if I just kind of gave the name and consented to the name, but it was an illegal arrest to begin with. So that's what I continued it on for. But yeah, they take it seriously. When they dragged me down to appear before the judge, then the next day there was 5 guys in full hazmat suit, and there was a guy taking images as well. All illegal, every bit of it illegal from the very outset. The thing that maybe will happen tomorrow now, they're going to have to cover their tracks. So you put it all on me and change your initial charge and stuff, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not going up there with a mask, and I'll say, look, that's a different story. I'm going to go. I'm here under duress as opposed to being here by consent. I haven't done anything. So they say you can't come in without a mask. How's that going to work? Well, I turned up, and out of very principle, I know the corona is a hoax. I know COVID is bollocks, Lee. But more than that, I know it's a symbolic hoax. So that's where I'm coming from. And how is that even going to go? Do you know what I mean? Not to mind what happens inside. And I don't know how that's going to go, though. It's the most peculiar thing. There's no charge to begin with. And ultimately, it's about me singing my corona. It's a hoax song. But even at that, I haven't disturbed anybody. I can sing a song. I sang it outside the police station a couple of weeks ago. I've been singing it regularly. Therein lies the problem. They can't say, well, we hassled you because you were singing your corona as a hoax song, because, that goes against their oath in a sense as public servants. They have no right to stop that. So you understand it's a difficult situation, but because they're all interconnected together, what lengths they may go to, that's the question. When you're in prison there, and it could happen, and someone could just sneak into your stick, let someone into your cell before you know it, then you wake up dead. That's not anything. You're really not. It's that. It's not that precarious. But look, the stuff that I'm talking about, that's a massive crime against the living man. And I made it clear from the very outset. I'm the living man. I mean, I can't. And when I go into court, then that's going to be another problem. When I talk about establishing standing, that's going to be difficult for the judge who was, the rude enough the last time. So before you know it, I'll probably be charged with contempt of court just for trying to stand up for, my true position here. And ultimately, that position is 100% I've been wrong. So just playing music and according to legalities and lawful common law, etc. There's no case to be had, except the case that I would pursue. But yeah, when you're in that situation, you either do it or you don't. If you don't do it, they'll make you do it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, when it comes to talking about if what's his name was in the chat again, he was talking about quoting the 1919 Irish Constitution. It's fair enough, and definitely a path to go for sure. But I don't even know how it's going to go to then. You know what I mean? And even up to then, would there be beyond that? Yeah, I don't get my. Do I get my authority from? I don't even know if I can't vouch for 1919. But do I get my authority from the majority? No, I think there's a greater power in play, and this is this is where flat Earth comes into it as well, and this is where the courthouse is a ship. The courthouse is a ship, right? So it's a ship on land. Everything is reversed, and we then are lost at sea. We're stranded on land. That's what we are, even though land is our home and the ship belongs at sea. So I think we're going to play that game in there. As I say, look, and even within where was it? Oh yeah. As I was playing that today, the Gospel or the Secret Book of James, as I was playing it today, the video ended and it just went down, skipped down to the next video. And all of the instructions that Jesus just started to play as the next automatic choice. One of them was, and actually you mentioned there, shame on you if you need an advocate. I mentioned that in the Secret Book of James. So that's probably very appropriate to me. But if you need someone to speak for you, no, because if you need someone to speak for you, then all you'll be doing is transmitting your story in your necessarily limited fashion, right, to another party, and then getting them to speak for you. So yeah, that won't be happening, and yeah, I have to tread carefully. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'll say. But you always have the signature at the end of it, and even the one document I'll be bringing up is the thing that I signed, but there's a certain writing underneath it as well. So we're making that clear. As far as I can see, the only thing I can do is just be honest. We're told, yeah, in as I said, when the Secret Book of James continued on, it was so all the sayings, all the instructions from Jesus throughout all of the New Testament Gospels just played automatically. But one of them was that not to prepare when you go into any court setting or setting of controversy, not to prepare that the Spirit will be with you in terms of what you have to say. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, COVID is balanced, but not quite as well. Corona, our own is the light of heaven. And I say COVID brings enlightenment. And well, April 1st, how far are we from that now? Not very long at all, actually, 30, 31, 31, maybe 36 days. 36 days, coming to Lenten time. They've been locked down almost from the start. Well, let's probably go back a bit now. Yeah, in a sense, I mean, what can we do as individuals, Tom? What can we do as individuals? Can't do much. Think about the number of people you might encounter during the day and what influence. What influence are you trying to have, first of all? What are you even trying to do when you interact with anybody? What are we trying to do when we do anything? But in these times, where everything is on lockdown, I think it's about coming to terms with the greater story here. And I mentioned it to the neighbor across the way. I told the story around a bit, not in great detail, but But I mentioned to the neighbour, when we think about the Celtic Tiger here in Ireland, and everything was built up for sort of an extravagant, wonderful time ahead, yeah, only to be let down, only to be brought down. Well, here we have sort of the polar opposite. Here we have the dreadful time. 2020, remember, is a dreadful time. And for me, myself, I can't, well, certainly wouldn't remember it as that. It didn't change that much for me, but um, yeah, it certainly would be remembered that way for many. And well, yeah, because everything is reversed. Is there great times ahead? Is there great times ahead? Does Corona ultimately usher in a new era and the next stage in the plan, the greater divine plan? You know, I said all roads are leading there, and um, well, at this stage, what role do we play? What role do you play? What role is expected of you as an individual? Asking that to myself as well. And once again, yeah, Jesus' attitude towards the disciples, and not to mind the people who've been outside, although he covered all of that as well. He covered all that. Shame on you because you met me. You should have known better. So not shame on the people who didn't meet me, but still have the faith and to come to terms with what I'm actually saying. Very interesting, isn't it? I'd recommend you go over that again yourself. Um, James as well, J-A-M-E-S. So we have the E, right? The whole E. So it's the divided state, the E and the E. You are E and your counterpart is E. And the S as well. So you're one aspect of the S. Right brain controls the left side, right? So it's in a spiraling fashion downwards. And yeah, well, the J at the front. And well, lots of J's: Jesus, Judea, Jerusalem. Um, yeah, what does the J represent? All about the structure of the letter as well. And well, James, J-M-E-S, Jesus, J-E-S-U-S. So J-E-S, us. So we are J-E-N-S. Go work that out. Go work that out. Once again, though, the divided state, Jesus knows. If you look at any representations of Jesus, generally mirrored down the center. And there's this sort of transgender feel to it, a soft feel about the depictions, most depictions anyway. I say this is all purposeful. We don't hear very much about Jesus' sexuality within the Bible, but do we in a different sense? Many times have I said, count the number of times that the word come appears in Revelation 22, the very last word of the Bible, the official Bible, the 66 books of the Bible. Even in the additive there, come to the waters, you who are thirsty, though I have nothing, I bid you come, and be filled with the gladness I have to offer. Come, listen, live. It's a divided state of us. The fluids have pooled, the fluids have drained, our brains have been sort of opened out, right? And everything has been fucking splayed out, flapped out. As the storm continues outside, well, to do with that though, right? To do with that, we'll all be doing something with something pretty soon. But yeah, Lee, how are you doing? Are you Lee from Jamie's? Is Jamie Brown still going? All I see, I'm not interested too much anymore on what's going on. How are you doing, Simon? That's what I meant to say to you, Simon, if you're still here. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. I'll have a little bit of a chat about that when I get back from, maybe have a cigarette. But yeah, I'll have a little bit of a chat about the, what do you call it, the 1990 Constitution and how it applies to the individual and what sort of hierarchy it establishes within these court structures. I mean, if everything is fraudulent to begin with, how does the honest man sort of broach it? And that's what I'm saying. I can have all the thoughts that I can. I actually try not to have any thoughts on this because I'm instructed not to, first of all. But because there's so many variables, there's so many strange things in this case, right? I don't know how it's going to go from the very outset, but to have that in your tool belt, in your arsenal, I guess. Yeah. would I swear by it? Would I? You know, I don't know if I could. You know what I mean? Even though I know it would, it's a good chance it would get you off, but there's other matters in play as well. You know, even down to the initial charge. And the one thing I learned from the last time is if you don't deal with the charge there, then they'll just process the case without you. They'll put the cops on stage, and if you don't question them, the cops will just say what they have to say, and then the judge will make his ruling on what he's heard. And you can talk about the legal name all you like, but the ruling will still be made. So you know, lots of different things in play here, and but yeah, I appreciate your input. Simon, Simon, Martin, and yeah, maybe just maybe when I go through my Economist cover magazine, get back to that for a little bit. I'm not going to sound too late here now as I crack open my last can. But I think the greater, more interesting question: what's going on behind the scenes here? And behind the scenes, I think everything is transforming beyond recognition, beyond recognition. And you know, any illegalities anywhere, everything is noted. Everything is noted. At the end of the day, the perpetrator of crimes, no matter what level or what extent, you go home yourself, right? And you deal with, you deal with the consequences and the thought process that follows everything you've done. And when you're talking about sort of an official levels, like I'm dealing with here, where there is no crime, and ultimately the higher levels know that, yeah, well, what do they know ultimately, Simon? Is ultimately, do they know, as I mentioned about the ship, the court being a ship, it's beached itself up on land and planted itself. So when we enter, they're not calling us; they're calling the legal name. But yeah, when it comes to theory versus practice, what are the extents of their true powers? It's an interesting question. Um, it's an interesting question, and especially against this Corona backdrop as well. And in terms of my own positive, more positive bend, Eden has come to us. Eden has come. It's not the few that are saved. It's all everyone's saved. What's the point in having a few saved? You know, when Jesus was admonishing there, we're not to take that to heart in the sense, because we're not to imagine a man admonishing even those in the know, not to mind those not in the know. No, no, we understand that we've been thrown into the deep end here. There is no tangible help to be had. So it's this intangible help that we are offered, I guess, ultimately, not from the very outset, I guess. I don't know. Everything culminates around now. ARISTARCHUS is revealed. Um, but yeah, in this intangible manner. First of all, it's all theatre. It's all scripted out. It's a pen. It's the great hidden hand that's behind all of the greater scripts. So yeah, coming to appreciate that, well, then it becomes a game of clues for us, for you, the individual. So in that sense, and in that context, that's how I view everything that's happening now. And if you do wrong, especially if you're confined within a certain special set of rules, like the public servants are in terms of their relationship to the truth, the people that they're taken off to serve. But if you break those rules, then, well, there are, as even mentioned in the secret book of James, there are, well, harsh consequences coming your way. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen again. and I'll make my way through this. So this is the the famous magazine cover, 2015 Economist cover, and I say herein lies one of the greatest sort of puzzles offered up to us, the truth seekers, in terms of this greater game of life we're entwined within. To go into all the details, because I've done it many, many times before. Well, I haven't done it many, many times before, but I've gone through all of the different clues to some degree or other. But because I was coming at it from a peculiar point of view, I didn't sort of need to get too in depth. It's like the children's take on a basic question. Keep it simple. And indeed, this is the clue to finding the hidden puzzle in this. It's the most prodigious magazines. And immediately, if you look at it, you should be able to tell a few things, especially if you've heard me talking about it before. But it's flat Earth centered. This is all about flat Earth. Featuring prominently at the bottom right corner is Alice from Alice in Wonderland, as she overlooks the greater theater that is world politics and all of its fabricated drama in the backdrop. You know, yeah. So this distinction, the distinction between a fact and fiction and fact, and this reversal, this is paramount when we enter and understand that, yeah, what is presented as reality is, well, for the most part, fabricated, and what is then represented in and through massive works of fiction, like the Book of Alice in Wonderland, or well, it's just featured prominently here, or even other works like Spider-Man, Batman, etc. More within that, therein lies greater levels of truth, if only they're there to be decoded. And it's a greater message as well. You know, we're talking just in general about literalism. Be careful what you believe. Henry Ford says history is bunk. Or you to question someone in the know, a billionaire, one of the richest men on earth. So yeah, what do we decide is true? Once again, this is on the pathway of you already deciding that there is a point to everything. There's a point to everything. Everything is structured in a very specific way. I'm just looking at the actually, just looking at the first word I saw there, staged. I actually saw staged, but it's not staged. I think it's singing. But yeah, so yeah, back to you. It's back to you. You understand that there is a point or there's no point. And as we've long since decided there is a point, well, what is encoded within the very beginning? Let me show you. So just to clear up, this is the 2015 Economist, world's #1 financial magazine. When I say world, I mean flat Earth surface that we live on. So it being another, is there anything that isn't associated with the hidden hand? No, it's all part of the construct. So all of these major influencers all have the same power structure behind them. So yeah, thinking in terms of this greater game, thinking in terms of this greater point to be revealed, can we follow any certain clues? Yeah, too many clues to go into. Alice in Wonderland being such a significant book in Alice through the Glass as well, in terms of just historical offerings, loaded with clues. Yeah, this is our beginning point. When we come to flat Earth, right, we move away from the factual representation, which is the spinning ball heliocentric, greater galactic, greater universal model. Well, and we look to mythology, we have this representation of the turtle with the elephants, right? The four elephants, the four pillars, trunks. For elephants have trunks, by the way. Yes, the four pillars are your limbs. How about that? They're your own limbs, your 2 arms and 2 legs. Look at that. Right. Well, as we zoom in, very forefront, before Alice and everything, here we have a representation of the turtle. So this sets the tone for the whole the whole presentation masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. Don't be thinking this isn't a master. This is modern art at its very finest, because pretty much everything in this is encoded to a greater, or well, even greater degree. So having the context correct is all important, right? And this is the biggest arena that there is. What other arena is bigger than the flat Earth arena? The world were to wake up to the truth of the non-spinning ball Earth reality, that over any other truth would shake to foundations the very core of every living man, woman, and child. At least if not directly, then indirectly. Because if you didn't feel too passionate about it beforehand, some of your neighbors are going to feel passionate about it, and sooner rather than later, that swell would, you know, ingrain itself into your psyche, understanding that of course you are part of this, and the deception has, even if you didn't care about it, it is what's formulated your whole worldview, your own personal worldview. So yeah, getting to these levels, if we're paying attention, this was 2015, and yeah, and flat earther about 2013. I looked into maybe 2011, so I took it seriously all the way. So we came down definitively on that side around that time. So yeah, I knew that there was this context of everything. Mark Sargent features in this, as does Patricia Steer. But the initial thing that jumps out at us is this with the turtle. So the turtle is missing something, as these little lines indicate. What's the turtle missing? We come away from the factual, yeah, to the mythological. Yeah, everything is, yeah, what do you say, everything. So the turtle is swimming in the endless waters. On the back of the turtle, we have the four elephants. And on top of the elephant, then, we have the disc Earth. Now, when we sort of translate it to actual reality, what might these things represent? That's a different matter. I won't go into that too much, just to say the turtle represents longevity, sort of self-containment, saline waters. Elephants represent sort of strength, land strength, solidity, memory. And the disc Earth itself then would represent the layout of the land, right? It's the map. We won't take it literally as a pizza surface, but it's the layout of the land as it would appear to an observer from a distance. So the turtle is missing these payloads. He's missing the elephant, and he's also missing the map, the layout. So this is our initial puzzle. So you're getting the idea. This is the initial, and in cartoon form, sort of presented to children in childlike form. So this is the initial consideration. Now I'm going to let you look at that image. This is how subtle it all is, right? I'm going to let you look at that image. Immediately, what I've just said will be clarified to you. Because, yeah, when I point it out to you, you'll see it. And when I move the image to the left, you'll also see the other component. So we're looking immediately for the elephants and the disc Earth, or the layout of the land somewhat, right? I'm going to leave that image on screen here and just ask you to, well, here's another thing. You can see behind the car there, we have what's Obama's feet, President Obama, Will Smith. But we have a reflection, right? So a reflection, you didn't know you were looking at the original feet, and all you saw was the reflection. Something different might present itself to your mind. As we look to the left of the turtle, who's looking for his payload, which are directly the elephants, can you see anything that might, in its reflected form, represent something slightly different? So in this topsy-turvy world as well, we'll understand that everything is capable of being inverted and read from back to front, from bottom to top, from right to left, to, well, garner some clues for us. But yeah, and anyone who's listened before, I've been through this, so I'll let you have a look for a second while I have a cigarette. When the wind is a howling and the snow is outrageous, It really is better out tonight now. It really is better. So just to get you going then, now we get on a color here, red, and just to get you going. So we're already onto one aspect of it, which is the elephant. So the elephant is found. If we just move in, how can I move down the screen a little bit? I'm just new to this. As I said, I lost everything on my own hard drive. Oh, here we go. Right. So I can zoom in here. So there you see. So the answer is there, right? So I'm going to point out where the elephant is. So there we have the turtle. The elephant is found, and then we have the disk Earth, which is here, right? Flat disk Earth. We live on. Look, there's no doubt about it. We live on the flat and stationary surface Earth. Well, I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm going to say the divided tree of life, the tree stump of life, as it's just above the invading waters. All islands is land. They're all part of the same sort of superstructure. You drain all the water away in terms of, water. What is it? 8 miles at the Mariana Trench. You drain that away 8 miles deep in relation to thousands of miles in expanse. It's only a thin pool, a thin shallow pool. So it's the tree of life. It's been cut. We live on it. As it just above the waters, the invading waters, and this is where maritime law comes into it as well. This is where man on the land. This is why they have their ship up on the land, because we don't know who we are. So, I mean, if I follow that to fruition, which I think I probably have to, I already mentioned it in the court. If I follow that to fruition, which who am I harming? What am I saying? Yeah, I think that's going to end me up in isolation again. 24-hour isolation, probably on a hunger strike. So, okay. Anyway, this is where all this comes into it. Let me just zoom in this area to show you where the elephant is. Once you see it, you won't be able to miss it again. And once again, I've been through it. I can't see all this too clearly at all. Here we go, yeah, look. So here, the reflection of the battery above here is the elephant's eye. Here you can see the trunk as it comes on. You need to get your own version up if you don't believe me about this, because I'm not going to spend too much time making convincing case, which I already made before. Hang on, we're going to put this down. We've been through this before. Oh shit! I used to. Okay. Here's the trunk coming around. Right? See, there's even a turn at the top, honestly. It's so deliberate, and you can see the trunk coming down. That should be red, by the way. But here's the eye here, which is a reflection of the battery. And here is the sort of the head, the greater ear area as it goes back. So let me undo all of that. Why is that red now? Okay, so you're getting the idea, and that's definitively there. There's no doubt about it. So once again, combining these mythological tales that have been told, and also coming away from the factual, scientific tales that are told, well, we can see clear. Now, can you see it? Can you see it as I just zoom in and out? It's an angry elephant as well, isn't it? You see the trunk bulging around. So as part of the next step, well, this is what we seek then. This is what we seek, the map of the earth, the layout of the land. And is that encoded somewhat into this masterpiece of a presentation, where you could spend, and people have spent, believe it, people have spent many hours debating what is presented here. And I think, and I'm talking about a lot of conspiracy forums and the like. There's some lots of fruit to be to be gathered from it as well, but um, were they all on the wrong track? I think they were until I presented what I have to present. I don't know anyone else who presented it in the proper context, and I also came by the solution. Um, if there is somebody, let me know. And I'd actually love to find out that there was somebody, because that would mean that someone else is on the track as well. And of course, there is someone else on the track. They're the people who, or the powers behind whoever encoded this his hidden puzzle within the greater context, within this great earthwide offering. I mentioned Mark Sargent and Patricia Steere being mentioned in focal points in a sense. Here is the on the left, the Beatles. Guitar stuck to the drum here. This Patricia Steere in every show had two things. She had her Beatles guitar, that exact guitar. Let me zoom in a small bit more. That exact guitar on her wall. She doesn't play guitar. That just came as part of the package. Patricia Steere would never presented herself in the same outfit twice on any of her hundreds of shows, hundreds of presentations. Why would she? She wouldn't embarrass women like that. She wouldn't embarrass women like that. 50 is very interesting as well. 1550 is 100. Yeah. Um, yeah. Did I mention earlier on 100 days from Christmas, 25th of December, to Easter Sunday, which is 4-4, which is April 4th. So 100 is 50. It's 10 times 10, but it's 50 and 50 as well, the divided state. 5 and 5. Actually, they mentioned that. Didn't they mention that in the Secret Book of James? The 5 and 5, 550 days. And also 10 months after the other secret book was published. But no, he was, I imagine it's stupid to take it literally. Yeah, it's a secret book of Jesus, and he never wanted us to tell anyone about this. So keep it to yourself, and with the rest of the people then, we'll fool them for 2,000 years. Yeah. Something else going on. But there's Patricia Steere's guitar, and on the other side then, Mark Sargent, Mr. Flatter, Patricia Steere, Mrs. Flatter. This is Mark Sargent's microphone, if you remember. And you probably won't, many of you won't. But that's to bring the flat earth context even more home. Mark Sargent, Sergeant Prepper. Mark Sargent made it a deal that he was a prepper. Mark Sargent, Prepper. And the front cover here is a nod towards Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which in history would go down as #1 album ever produced from the great, vast repertoire of humanity. Sergeant Pepper's would be #1, and it's been made that way, right? So that's for the purposes of the greater clue revealing. So, yeah, Mark Sargent, Patricia Steere, flat Earth related. So we're looking now for the next clue. Where will it take us? Where the turtle is still missing the actual layout of the land as it juts above the flag plane, and the rugby ball itself, oval, is very significant. But yeah, so many things to talk about. I'll get around to that in a little bit as we look up at the sky. We see the Earth with two faces. What might that be about? Because we're used to seeing of that size and in that sort of structure, the moon or the sun, right? Maybe two are expressions of the one thing. Well, of course, I've been saying that, and that's getting beyond this, which is yeah. This is the whole point of this. Once I get to the solution to the hidden puzzle on this, the most prestigious magazine to this day, economical magazine on earth, The Economist. Once you get to the solution, it's only part way along. It's by no means the end of it, and it's by looking at other clues up here then, with this dual nature of whatever this sky body is. This two-faced sky body. That's for further down the line. Which, look, I'm not gonna. not going to hide it, but I won't say it as well at the same time. Anyway, thinking in terms of children, so coming away from, the intellectual, actually, I mentioned it in the secret book of James as well. So soul is associated with reason. And um, this is what we have to move away from. This is the lacking, in a sense. But I think we've to find a balance between the lacking and the filling, and we can sort of do we can create the lacking, and we can cause the filling and will, then, because we can go between sort of different understandings. I think ultimately this is what's been put across. But when we come in from the left side of the page, we encounter this figure, the Pied Piper, follow the leader type. Uh, Everything simplified. As children, we must become. Think in terms, think in simplified terms. Yeah. So when all of the intellectuals or all of the conspiracy-minded people are trying to get to the bottom of everything that's presented, you're trying to decode an image, you're trying to decode a picture, a Picasso image, and it's fair enough. You might make great inroads, but if you come to understand, like, say, let's take a Picasso or let's say Da Vinci, never existed in the form that you think that it existed in. I think another famous Andy Warhol is another example, completely crafted personality, persona, like so many others. Um, who's the guy with the clocks as well? That guy, which actually I made some inroads into gathering what he's talking about. But that's the way I look at it now. They're all put in place. They're actors put in to fulfill a role. And for the longest of times, I've been looking at all of the antagonists, and I'm talking more so about the antagonists on the baller side, as clue givers. They're privy to greater knowledge. And what that greater knowledge is, I don't know, but they certainly have some grasp on it. And this is why they're playing the roles for the reasons they are, at least to the best of my ability to grasp the situation. But anyway, early doors, yeah, simplify things, take everything down a level, separate your thought process, your reasoning process from your your more natural, your natural spiritual sort of feeling, I guess, your spiritual resonance. So I mean, truth is truth, and when we think about what art is, I mentioned this the last time. I should. I wish there was someone to sort of bounce these things off of. I'd be more coherent. But I have a specific idea of what I mean. When we think about art, is it representative? It's our best abilities, our best efforts at trying to represent or to try and make sense of the reality in which we find ourselves. But that's all in good if everything is as is said to work on the tin. But it's not, you see. It's not. The truth is always known. We have ventured into a different surround, and that makes all the difference. Now when I look at artists like, well, what do you got? Einstein. Now I see a different thing. I see just a conduit, in a sense, just a fabricated persona who is there to present a sort of series of clues, if you want, a series of clues, ever magnifying, ever focusing, deeper. Once you get to a certain level, I think then it becomes more and more apparent. Every clue beforehand fits more snugly into place. But when it comes to these fabricated characters, that's the way I see it. And yeah, coming to view everything in this simplistic sense. Well, two things you can do as a child: you can follow the arrows or follow the finger where something is pointing. Follow it, right? So when we do that, go to the left of the screen. The Pied Piper is a clue for us adults, right? And all the children follow the Pied Piper, right? It's pointing directly downwards. And let me just get it recorded here. Jeez, it really is. this and that. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So as we followed the Pied Piper, we can see, just to back us up, there's always two clues, there's always two pointers, right? There's always two pointers. So if you think maybe this is the way, then you'll find another pointer which will say, well, that's certainly the way then. But as we follow the Pied Piper, and again, we're in the context of flat Earth, and we're actually looking for the map of the Earth, the map of the layout of the land on this flat and stationary surface. The best way I can put it across is, yeah, again, the trees. So flat and stationary surface. So I say it's of the tree stump, but in terms of the whole span of the Earth, right, in terms of all the water and everything, the biggest variation between absolute level, absolute horizontal, is the highest variation between high and low tide, which is, I'm talking about water level, water at this stage, which is, well, about 30 meters somewhere in Alaska. That's outside of massive sea swells or something. Let's give it even 100 meters, it doesn't matter. That's the highest variation between absolutely level on the waters of Earth, the vast expanses of waters on Earth. So, yeah, we're looking for a pointer, a lead towards figuring out what exactly the layout is. We're given the Gleason's map to begin with, but yeah, that's problematic. There's some, not to even refresh my own memory, that's problematic in many different ways. It's sort of too easy. It's handed to us on a plate. So what is the real layout? Well, this is the sort of greater context. When we follow the Pied Piper, we look at Putin's hand. This is Putin here, and it points down in a certain direction, which is, just follow the line and go downwards. And like a child, what do we meet? Well, we meet the first hurdle, which is this child, another child in play, with an aeroplane. He's in this one. With an airplane, but we don't need any special inside information, any special intelligence to see that the airplane is pointing in a specific direction, and that very simply is towards the ball itself, the rugby ball. So here we have that direct connection. Here's another. This is how I could get lost in all of this. As I said many times, when other children were being read like nursery rhymes, I was reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to my beautiful Steve, and there we have the two Babel fish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and also the slogan here, "Panic," which goes against the "No Panic" from the Hitchhiker's Guide itself. So yeah, deeper clues, but you don't need to know it. You don't need to know it. So where's the ball pointing? Well, the ball is pointing in one specific direction, which is this way, right? I know the coloring isn't good. It'll do though. Get yourself an image yourself of the Economist 2015 and verify that this is all true. Now, once again, we can check in other places that we're on the right track, because we'll be shown. So as we make our way towards the bear, if we look at the bear's chest, you can see arrows sort of pointing upwards, right? You can see that immediately as it jumps out, as they look at it in a different way. So the arrows point upwards, upwards. But as we look between the bear's legs as well, look at that. That's a clear and distinct arrow pointing upwards. So, no doubting about that. Maybe just an ordinary pen. You can see that, no doubt about that, right? Oh, that's a bit big there, isn't it? That's pretty clear. Look, there's no doubt. You know what I mean? There's no doubt about that. But yeah, just to stress as well. They can get a greater feel for the upwards pointing arrows. When I came by the puzzle to begin with, I found this pathway, but I didn't have the proper context. Definitely, wasn't sure it was about flat Earth. I had an inkling, and this is back in 2015 when it came out. before I had a YouTube channel as well, but I got lost then. I got stalled here, just here. So we make our way up from the bear's chest. I'm sorry about this. From the bear's chest and up towards angular. Yeah. Right, Angela Merkel's pants leg upwards, right? So you're towing the line. You're you're grappling your way along, and this is where I got stuck the first time in Angela Merkel's grasp here. Where to go from there? Funny enough, I have a line drawn in there, which must have been accidental, but that's where you don't go. Red is no, green is yes, green is go. Red is stop, green is go. As we go into Angela Merkel, yes, let me just continue the line upwards. So here we go. As we go to Angela Merkel, this is a juncture point. Where do we go from there? Where do we go from there? Very simple. I got stuck there. I didn't know where to go after that, and I left it for a while, and then I came back to it. Well, you can't go left, because if you go left, the sinister path as well, you get chopped to bits by a helicopter. So it really is that sort of simple in terms of its following the directions. And remember, this is, you can clarify this for yourself. This isn't me just okay. It might sound random. It might sound sort of graspy or clinging to possibilities. But in terms of the greater coherence and the greater, ultimate solution and the greater context of this as well, it's absolutely certain that this is an encoded, a hidden puzzle, and the solution is also absolutely certain. Anyway, as we go along, that's our right hand, so our left side. As we go along her left hand, we follow up as you would do naturally, up the shoulder, up towards the shoulder. But then we see that there's a shadow from this central character that we have the possibility to sort of grapple to and move along. As we zoom in on the shadow, it crosses his chest and points in a certain direction. As you can see, points in this direction. So we're up here. And where does it point? It points at this guy in the center. Just his head out of nowhere. Who is he? Some guy with some virtual goggles on. And as we zoom in a little bit, move over a little bit, we can actually see in his face itself, in the structure of his face, by his nose here. Look, you can see the arrow pointing upwards. Do you see it? It's unmistakable, right? You can see it pointing upwards deliberately. Where's his nose gone? So yeah, as we go upwards, I don't think colors are too predominant here. As we go upwards, we have again a crossroads. As we go left, there's a red. That's red. In the original, this picture isn't probably the best, but that's red. So red for stop. And as we go the other direction, we meet these two characters, some Eastern Chinese and Eastern Earth leaders. But yeah, we can see a few things that jump out. Arrows. Look, see the arrow, the black arrow pointing downwards here. And also the two between them, the arrows. Right? So once again, encouraged to, so yeah, we come up here, over here, and then we go down, right? So as we go down then, well, you don't have anywhere to go, so you toe the line. Until you follow the thread. Yeah, you come down along his shoulder point, all the way down. Again, an arrow here, look. An arrow here, all the way down until we get to Spider-Man. So Spider-Man is swinging on a thread. And if we could see better, the patterns along his trousers itself are sort of pointing in this direction along the lines of his body upwards. So as we meet the thread, and as we see Spider-Man swinging, we follow our way along up the body, and we investigate every possibility. As we go left, it's a dead end; it's into a pocket. But as we go right, you know, as we go right to a certain point here, right? If we continue to go right, we exit stage right, but we see a hand pointing downwards, which is David Cameron's hand. So again, follow the pointers, and it's pointers all the way. Now, that hand is pointing down to this particular painting, which turns out to be a painting by Leonardo da Vinci. When you look up the original painting, I don't remember what the name of it was. Look up the original painting. The lady is facing the other way, so it's been mirrored purposefully to look in the opposing direction. As we zoom in, and sort of mirror the direction of her gaze, she's looking directly at Alice, and Alice herself is looking somewhere else. Alice herself is looking directly over this way at the Cheshire Cat, right, which is another favored character from Alice in Wonderland. And look what the Cheshire Cat has been chosen to sit upon, a branch of a tree, nonetheless, but an arrows pointing in a specific direction, right? So we're continually making our way around the image in a very simplified manner, just following the arrows. And when we do that, this is the biggest arrow here, which is going all the way across. So we have to ultimately go across here. As I've done all this before, this is the ultimate solution, and it's a wonderful, brilliant solution. But before we do that, Obama's trousers feature a certain feature. Feature a certain feature. It's pretty clear once you see it. You see the threes here? 3, 3. See it? And at the time, I was thinking, oh, that's just another clarification that, look, yeah, you've made your way along towards up to this point. You're not quite there yet, but here, have a 3, have a 3, and know that you're there or thereabouts. So remember, the ultimate. Yeah, how would you ever get this otherwise? Imagine you couldn't get this, first of all, if you didn't come to flat Earth. There's no way you could. But even coming to flat Earth, how would you get this? You know what I mean? How would you get this? There's so many things you have to sort of incorporate. And I've probably come across as being stupid here. I'm not presenting it. If I was to spend, let's say, a day or two thinking about how I would walk through and talk through this, I could do. As I said before many times, I can only write a book, not a book on this, but where things that, because this is only the beginning, I knew, and the funny thing is, I knew when I revisited it, after I got stuck at Angela Merkel, when I revisited it, I knew the answer. I just knew the answer. I didn't know where I'd find it, but I knew the answer beforehand because I knew the dodo bird was intimately connected with the flat Earth layout of the map. But 33. Little did I know that I was to find out that the main character here, Obama, center stage, is Will Smith. That's Will Smith, friends. It's all an act. It's all theater. So little did I know at the time that that's what I was to find out. But here is where we're pointed to, right across here. This is described in the literature that goes along with explaining the cover in inverted commas somewhat as a ghost of some sort, a spectre of some sort, which is interesting, a spirit maybe of some sort. I later myself came to understand that, well, if you take a closer look, again, I knew the answer. If we take a closer look, it's actually a condom. It's a Johnny. It's a rubber Johnny. It's a prophylactic. So, yeah, the two islands up here are in, they told us already, let me show you. They told you in a few different places up here where we're looking for. If we go up to the, yeah, down at the corner. I told you in a sense anyway, down at the corner here of the map, what features prominently is this Indian Ocean, Eastern Africa, Western Australia, Indian Ocean area, and also at the top here. It even pinpointed, almost pinpointed for you, right? Let me zoom in. This is worth it. Almost pinpointed for you. So here's Africa, here's India, and where the smile ends, just right here, just around here. I think it's probably a bit closer, but just close enough to here. Actually, that's probably close enough. That's Mauritius. That's where Mauritius and its neighboring island, Reunion Island, is to be found. Reunion. So now we look back at the prophylactic, the Holiday Island. Let me just go over to that. The Holiday Island. First of all, the prophylactic, right? Condom. When I wear a condom, there's no point in wearing it unless you're going to get into some sort of reunification mode. But we have the two islands, Reunion Island and Mauritius. And here we have the holiday destination, and where, because it's been pointers all the way, where the ghost or the prophylactic, where the arm, where the fingers are, it points upwards. And we have OD, it's pointing at OD, right? Everything's reversed, so that's DO. And just where the thumb is pointing, just beneath that, there's a 2. What looks like an S, it's misplaced. Let me just jump in. Not fiendish, isn't it? You can just about see it here. Can you see it? I know. And the quality of this isn't the best now, but that's okay. You can just about see it here. So the waves are drawn in, but there's an S here. It's like a squiggly line, but it's darker. And if I zoomed in a bit more, there'd be no point because the quality isn't being retained. But it's a 2. S and 2 are interconnected. That's not easy to see. But as we go upwards, there's even a line here to help us. Yeah, we have do and do, do, do. So the solution being the dodo bird and Mauritius. The dodo bird and Mauritius. And that is absolutely 100% the solution to the hidden puzzle on the front cover of the world's most prominent financial magazine, The Economist. So as we're in this sort of deeper level of, what are you going to call it? What are you going to call it, man? Treasure hunt? Well, then these offerings take on all the more significance. Bring up the image yourself. Find the path yourself and see how what I'm saying is absolutely true. Now, the upshot of it all is there's more to the story. There's absolutely more to the story, because how did the changing face of the land come about, which is the dodo represented via the Gleason's map? How did the changing face of the earth come about? Well, the destruction of something. And what is that something? Well, that's how the dodo and ARISTARCHUS are intimately connected. And isn't it? It's hilarious. It's hilarious. They to repeat myself again, but this is sort of new stuff. The Oxford AstraZeneca is the vaccine to rid us of the COVID plague, I guess. But Oxford is known for the only intact skeleton to be found pieced together from many different offerings of the dodo bird. Oxford. Tom York from Oxford is the lead singer of Radiohead, who I've spoken about many times. Not that I know too much about it, but just the basic. He is the dodo. Radiohead had the soundtrack to the greatest blockbusting movie in history, which was the 9/11 movie. So all significant, all placed within the greater arena as what greater clue givers. Greater clue givers. So his nickname is the Dodo and Salamander, and yeah, this connects to Salamander as well. This pinpoint, which precedes everything, is the closest thing to us. Even spanning Alice there or the turtle itself. And what might that represent? The pin. When Alice received in Alice in Wonderland, Alice received a thimble from the dodo, um, and what was it, for winning the caucus race? Not for winning, for competing in the caucus race. Everyone got a prize, but Alice got her own thimble back that she had given to the dodo. When Alice met the dodo, first of all, at the beginning of the chapter, the dodo was looking for dry land, following Alice's tears. Following Alice's tears. Um, but yeah, Alice got back a thimble from the dodo, and if you do any knitting or sewing, a thimble protects you from a pin prick. And here at the very pinnacle of the print here, we have this supersonic pinprick. The 0 point, very good actually. The 0 point, yeah. So, do you see in a what do you call it? In a general sense, how it connects everything, how simple it is in a sense, as we were looking for. You might feel confounded in a sense because you say, well, where does this lead? Well, it leads to many places in a sense, and if you look at the image here, 11.5 and 11.3. 11.3 was when the corona, that's 2020, when the corona was announced as a pandemic. IPS talks about that frequently. 11.5 is 55 as well. I married Isis on the 5th day of May. 5 and 5 is 10. So the 10 is divided in two, and you are one half. Your female counterpart is the other, or your male counterpart is the other half. 88 is when you get 55 and 55. Easter Sunday is 4-4. So 4-4 and 4-4 is 88. 88 is also Back to the Future. If we go back 88 years from 2021, you get 1933. April 1st is the new year. April 1st, 1933, the Nazis boycotted all Jewish goods. So in a sense, that was the beginning of the World War II, which for the most part was fake. It was all symbolic hoaxery. But now we're coming up to 88 years later, and April 1st again, which is Fool's Day or Dodo's Day. That's the real New Year. The Earth was said to be created on April 1st, so for it to end, the world to end on April 1st and begin again, well, maybe April 4th, 3 days later, death and following death and resurrection. It confounds us all, and how wonderful is it? How wonderful it is. We think we're clever adults, and the children, simple questions will be answered quicker. Yeah, you might ask, where does that lead you? Okay, let's say it is the dodo. Let's say, yeah, the dodo never existed. What does it represent? Well, it represents the changing the map of Earth, the changing face of the land. Literally, it does. It can be connected. It's encoded within it. I haven't been too bothered to do it. It's one of the books that I could do. Put lots of research into it. But yeah, that's only part of the story. How did the changing face of the land come about? Well, the tree of life was cut. What is that tree of life? ARISTARCHUS. Here we have the sand here underneath the image, underneath the picture. That is sand. Sand is sawdust of the giant felled tree. Yeah, ultimately, that interconnection between so yeah, Oxford, the dodo, AstraZeneca, Astra star, all stars referring to the one star, ARISTARCHUS. So we have the in the COVID vaccine, the corona vaccine, which is Oxford, AstraZeneca. We had Dodo, Aristarchus, Zen, and Amen. ECA, I mentioned this the last time. The whole E goes to the A by a certain sort of procedure, by a certain will. You contort the E to go one direction or the other. That's what it is ultimately. You either ascend or you descend. And when you descend, hmm, it's where the woe of man, that's where the woman's role comes into it, I think. And it's not in like the terms we think of. It's just two parts of the same thing. It's the jigsaw puzzle. The male is the solid piece. The female is the whole. The solid piece fits into. There's no hierarchy. One is no good without the other. So it's the two together and make the whole. So yeah, it's in that sense that the fall of man is down to Eve. And I mentioned before, Eve is right in the heart of seven. S Eve N. We are born into sin, into seven, separation. So, what do you think, friends? And along, for a second, I don't. I'm not fooling myself to think that you yourself, taking some interest in this, wouldn't have so much more to offer. But yeah, once again, it's always this flat Earth outside of all of the drama, outside of all of the gossip. There's a greater story being told here, and once again, there's a point. There is a point, or there's no point. Isis said the other evening, "I married Isis on the 5th day of May. There's no point." He ultimately holds, or the position he puts across anyway, is that he holds that there is no point. The best a man can do is make the best of what he's got, knowing the circumstances that he finds himself in. No, then along comes Corona, along comes Flat Earth, along comes Corona, and Isis himself. He's long since, for me anyway, let his role to some limited way be known, that he is playing a role, and while he is privy to greater knowledge, what exactly they are privy to, I tried to find that out from some people anyway. And one thing I realized is that no matter what they did know, and even didn't know about Aristarchus. I'm not sure all of them didn't know about it, but for the most part, they didn't know about Aristarchus. So even the elite, even the elect will be deceived at the end, we're told. Say fair enough. I say fair enough. I say fair enough. I'll be in the elect in a sense if I joined the local Freemasonry club, sort of paid close attention, knowing that there was a greater story to be told here, move my way up the ranks. No matter how far I got up there, right? I always know that there was more to know, more I didn't know. Where I'm at right now, I'm not part of any, I'm not privy to any fraternities or brotherhoods or any private affiliations. Everything I found out is along my own sort of pathway, honest inquiry. I've tried to be an honest man for the most part in my life. Um, the irony being now that I've been accused by the people who are taking an oath to uphold honesty. I've been a dishonest man, and God knows what else is going to pile on top of it in this most curious of cases. But yeah, I can't think of anyone out there who would say, if they met me, yeah, nothing bad to say about me. Really. I just can't think of it. Can't think of it. But it's funny how things work out, and well, I guess we must be tested. We must be tested. Um, but what do you think? What do you think? That won't mean anything to anybody for the most part. Mauritius and the dodo. And Mauritius is the best Starkism. I'm putting that on the record. It's the best Starkism there is. No, actually, not Mauritius. Morris Starkus. Morris Starkus is the best Starkism there is because Mauritius, CHUS, can be pronounced cus or shus, right? And that's why, as I said earlier on in the description, it's R-I star Chus or Kush. So when you arrange the letters, it's ARICHUS star or ARICHUS star. It's phonetically equivalent. You can pronounce it either way. And I say that's with the utmost intent. And yeah, the dodo came about because Aristarchus, the tree of life, was felled, was cut, and the dodo represented the changing face of the land, which is what we were looking for. The turtle was missing. We found the elephant. We were missing the discus itself, which represented the layout. So yeah, we found the dodo, which ultimately is the Gleason's map, right? When you rotate it around, so Australia's at the bottom. But yeah, now there's that different context, and the clue can be taken further. And indeed, I have taken it further in terms of what I've said anyway. I haven't produced any videos to show you because I haven't been bothered to do it. Like it's enough for me to know that there's a different face to the land. If I had to produce a map, I could have. I made the offer to Tim Osman. I said, Tim, 2 weeks and you make it famous, right? Because I think all the clues are there. When we talk about the latitude, the longitude, and spherical coordinate system of the spinning ball Earth, that all applies to Earth itself and the different component parts to it. We have the flat and stationary surface. We have the moving core, which generates the skylights and generates the barrier as well of certain dimension and proportion. If we look at the oval Earth here, oval Earth, well, that's the Earth. The confines of the Earth are defined by the sky, and yeah, that's what's represented there. And I think there's a greater connection. The ultimate greatest connection is the connection between us and the Earth, us and the Earth. And remember, we're greater than all this. We're sort of entered. When I say greater, I mean that no humility, right? But we've entered into this experience to maybe piece it together. And because all of these hidden clues are there, not for everyone, but they're there. Well, that gives some solace. That takes us away from Isis and his fatalistic emanation. Even though I know he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe it at all. Yeah, I've said it many times in the past that it's by me talking to people like Isis and people on the other side who have come to realize that they're obviously clearly playing a deceptive role. But what can I garner? What do they actually know? What can I garner? I don't mean I'd ask someone straight out. I don't mean it in any conniving, sneaky sort of way. I'd ask them straight out. But I try to say, what can I garner? Can I pose a question a certain way? And depending on their response, I might garner a little piece of information, or leading towards a greater, inexorable realization. And that is what to realize what they know. Well, what if they're just at the, let's say, the 39th level of Freemasonry? And there's like 74 levels to more to go. Where does that leave me? Or you know what I mean? I prefer not to think about any of that sort of stuff. But yeah, not everyone knows about Aristarchus. People know about it in a different context. But to piece everything together, does it even matter at the end of the day? Well, does it matter at all? Or does it matter a damn? I didn't put this on the front cover of the Economist magazine. I don't have millions. I don't have insider information. I'm just looking at the puzzle as I did back then. A few other subsequent connections to all of this. Paul McCartney turns out to be the dodo. Paul/Fall. We were always meant to figure the divided state. Paul/Fall. He is the dodo. Michael Jackson faked his death and returned as the dodo. It doesn't matter if we're black or white. So this dual nature always exemplified. He returned as the five-live dodo. So these three different connections. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to say that it's all the ravings of a lunatic. It's do what you like, but there's different connections there. There's no denying that, and I'm not looking for justification or anything. I'm not looking to try and convince anybody or anything as well. But yeah, continue on the path. But I wanted to get through that anyway. just to show you, this is the level we're dealing with. This is the level of um, intricacy. And I've said it for many times. It's a serious stepping stone. It's not. Nothing is overly complicated. That's the way I look at it. Nothing is overly complicated. As long as you take it one stepping stone at a time. Some of those stepping stones are pretty monumental. Coming to understand that 9/11 was a media and a victim, fakery, extravagance. No one ever convinced me otherwise. No one. I give a shit. Nobody. But that's monumental for the vast majority of the world's populace at this stage to step away from. But we'll be stepping away from it soon. We're stepping away. Well, we stepped away from it already, but we'll be stepping away from it overtly very, very soon. And if you think that's a great find there, a great puzzle find, that led on to one of the greatest lost treasure finds in history. And intimately, would you believe again, friends, connected with the dodo. The lost plate of Alice in Wonderland, the original printings, one of them was lost throughout all of history since they were published first, as the story goes. One of the original plates was lost. And all productions up to that point, which was a few years ago, featured 91 original plates, which retained original detail, but the one copy plate, which lost some of the detail because the copies were made for the purposes of mass publication. Well, PJ found the original plate, and that missing plate happened to be from Chapter 3 of Alice in Wonderland and Alice's encounter with the dodo bird. Isn't that fantastical in itself? Isn't that fantastical? And when you connect that with what I'm talking about here in terms of this Economist front cover magazine, you got to think to yourself, you got to start taking some of this stuff seriously. Because what if this life is not about what we actually come to bring to bear ourselves, but what we come to bring to find out? You know what I mean? Because the story is already written. If we are riding on the shoulders of the giants of science, as the official story goes, of course, we're at the very pinnacle. But what if we're not at all? If you're at the very pinnacle, well, if you turn everything upside down, you're at the trough instead of the peak, because you believe everything. I asked my mother last week, and I could see myself in my mother. If she asked me that question 20 years ago, I would be telling her, "Oh yeah, I saw a program with Stephen Hawking, brilliant. Not Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein, brilliant. Yeah, what a brilliant man." And she asked me, "Well, what? Tell me one thing you understand about what he did and what he added to your life, or the you know, the life of your fellow man." I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was just saying, "Well, he's brilliant." And I always said he was brilliant just because from alone, I knew I didn't understand his stuff, but from alone, just him being revered so much, first of all, so there had to be a reason for that, because you're innocent and naive to think that. But then again, that he expanded his mind so far that he solved the universe. He extended it to the vast extent of the universe, and he solved the universe, which he didn't really, from the comfort of his armchair. But well, if I can debunk, PJ can debunk Einstein. But yeah, if anyone can probably debunk Einstein, but if it can see through to the deeper layers of the encoding, the name itself, Einstein, one stone, one ST, one. Think about it, one ST, one Einstein, one ST, one. Aristarchus, ARISTARCHUS. So STCH. We're told there's a relationship between the two. When we look at the word Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, CHRIST. So the one stone, the discarded stone upon which the Church of Jesus is built. Well, what is that? What is that? And it turns out, funny enough, to be connected with Alice in Wonderland again, because Alice in Wonderland has a discarded chapter which is called The Wasp and the Wig. I'm fucking thinking, I swear to you, I'm thinking to my, I don't like that, I'm not going to swear now, I don't even use the word. But people used to call me Repeat Pete, and they probably still call me Repeat Pete, and now that I just thought about it there, stuff I'm talking about now spans 170, 180 years. That's according to the official story. I say it goes back to the beginning, which is 400, coming up on 423 years. As the beginning of this divided state. Like, boy, when I think about it, if I'm just repeating stuff, no one else is saying this stuff, first of all. And I know the significance of it. And I also know that it is connecting such greater themes that you almost wouldn't believe. And that's like, not just flat Earth, it's beyond flat Earth. Flat Earth is where does that lead you? Flat Earth. Flat Earth. The minute you say that, you land yourself in trouble with anyone and everyone. You have to specify a bit more. So I'm able to specify. I'm able to specify for my own picture, which is a tree stump. It's my best example to people. Imagine it listen, when you talk about flat Earth, think of a flat and a stationary or a surface, and then a tree stump is a great example then to give. Yeah. So yeah. Have you spotted any more in that image, friends? Because every single thing is encoded, and everything 6 years later is more pertinent than ever. Time is an illusion, I think, more and more. Time is an illusion. And I mentioned artifice and art a few times. What's the opposite to art? And it's not the opposite as such, but it's like an opponent, an opposition to art. It was knowing. Knowing. If you know something, there's no need to represent it artificially, right? In artifice. And once you know something, yeah, there's no need outside of that. Do birds know things? I think they do. I mean, every animal knows. Every animal knows. How many examples are there of dogs and cats perceiving things outside of our human? HU-man, right? The 8U-man, twisted man. The 8 is the twisted 0. E, and we have the E as well, 8, 8. So when we're talking about 8, 8, Back to the Future, 8, 8, put 8 forward and 8 in reverse. You have the whole E connected. Now you have to spirit. What do you mean spirit? Well, we have to realize the distinction. We have the lower leaning, the material, Mother Earth. This is the role assigned to the mother, the lacking. And we have the male, which is Father Sky. We're right brain. Male is more right brain orientated, the righteous path, and the left brain orientated female, the sinister path. Sin, and only in terms of the greater divide that is there within us, which is a divide from the immaterial true nature. So once again, there's a point to everything, or there is no point to anything. Let me sing a song. What song I sing? I sing a song harmonica. I better get serious now in terms of stuff I have to say. Not that I have anything prepared to say, but I better get serious in my thinking process anyway. To cut to the quick, cut to the core. What the fuck is it all about? You mightn't see me again. I don't know how it's going to go. Who knows? Who knows how anything's going to go? But I sort of cut to the quick then. That's what I'm trying to do here. So this is bringing us in on the screen to the heart of matters, game of clues. So we're led to Mauritius and the dodo. And remember, this isn't just about the flat earth. The one turtle represents self-containment, longevity, saline waters. Represents more as well. Can you imagine yourself as a turtle? I can imagine myself as a turtle out of a shell, my head sticking out, my legs on the ground. When they talk about the four pillars of earth and heart, these are our 4 pillars: the hand, the foot, the hand, the foot, the other hand, and the other foot. But yeah, that close representation, that close equation between our being here and the greater manifestation that is Earth, the divided state of heart. So, let me see this. Anyway, you're probably sick of listening to these songs as I repeat them again, but do I stop? Okay. Let me just say, sorry for not getting into the chat. Let me just say a special hello to. Okay, let me read this properly. My D-realm inverse concave Earth apple. Man, let me say hello to you, especially because I know you said, and I spoke to you once in Nathan Oakley's chat, and I'm sure you realize, how much of a setup this whole scene, this whole scenario is. But you said you can back up everything on your own channel, which is excellent. I generally don't visit other channels because I've been on my own path for so long. But if you've backed up everything with your own work and intricate sort of investigations into things, fair fucks to you, man. I'll put the link in if you want to have a chat after I play a bit of music. That'd be great, actually. Wouldn't that be excellent if you jumped in? Because we don't know each other outside of brief texting and what do you call it? But the one thing I will say about me is that no, I don't have the hardware there to back it up what I'm saying. In a sense, I've sort of been through everything in my own channel over the years, but the best way I can represent where I'm at is by speaking it out, and any further sort of clarification down the line. Up to this point, it's like, well, who am I clarifying things to? Especially with the understanding that the truth is already known. So I would just reading the story, any progress I would make. But coming to meet people like you with a different and a fresh frame of mind, I don't mind concave earth. There's the link there. If you want to click on and we have a fresh chat, no worries. If you don't have to go on camera or anything. Just go on chat and we can have an introductory chat and see where you're at in all of this. I think concave earth given to us, well, the major figure was Stephen Christ, who spent 33 months in prison because he offended or upset Obama in some way, made a threat against him. Yeah, all very suspicious. I talked to Stephen myself, and yeah, I came out with a certain sort of way of thinking, I guess, and that is that concave earth, flat earth, concave earth, spinning ball spheroid earth, everything. It's an amalgamation. The truth of a reality is an amalgamation of everything, and in a sense, one is just the only distinction between one and the other is a perspective. So that's the way I think it. And I've coined a new term, metaphorsics. We live in a metaphysical realm, and metaphor rules the day because, well, the truth is known and always known, and the lie is built from the truth. So it's all of these disparate, separate pieces which will provide the greater clues within the brain, within the mind of the inquirer, well, towards the greater amalgamation. So, let me sing a song. The link is there, man. But sure, I have lots to say about Apple. Paul/Paul McCartney. Did you know that, man? Let me think of a Dicea. Dicea. They call you Dicea, so as a abbreviation or something along those lines. Anyway, well, Paul McCartney/Paul McCartney. He was the dodo. And of course, the Beatles had their Apple records, Apple label, and they still do, Apple label. The Apple being very pertinent to everything that's going on in terms of, well, so much actually. So I wasn't going to that, but yeah, there's a link if you fancy jumping in. If not, no worries as well. And what time is that? That's not too bad. I'll stand for another hour maybe, and not too late. We'll see how it goes. Let me sing a song and think of a song to sing. Okay, I have a song. You say that we got nothing in common, no common ground to start from, and we're falling apart. And you say the world is come between us, our lives have come between us. I know you just don't care. And I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, I think I remember the film. Yes, and I recall, I think we both kind of liked it and wanted something. There's nothing I got. Tiffany, she said, I think I remember the film, yes, and I recall, I think we both kind of liked it, oh, but something, it's one thing that's you say that I'm down to stop and we're you say the world is come between us, lives have come between us. I know you just don't care. And I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, I think I remember the film, yes, and I recall, I think we both kind of liked it, and well, that's something. It's one thing we got. Oh, I said, what about breakfast and Tiffany? She said, I think I remember the film, yes, and I recall, I think we both kind of liked it, and well, that's something. It's one thing we got. Oh, that's something. It's one thing we got. I dropped the pick there somewhere. uh, yeah, just a song I like to sing, and that's I've been out of jail about a week now, and I didn't win busking once, not for any other reason. I mean, and leave it until after tomorrow, see what happens. But I've been down the riverside a few times singing a few songs, but today was a blustery, windy day, so didn't get to do that much. But it is great to sing out, and fuck 'em all. I don't mean no disrespect or anything. It doesn't matter how I sound. Okay, if I make mistakes or whatever, that's okay. It's just good to sing out. Well, let me say, just in regards, I hope you represented that anyway. So you have it in its core sort of presentation because it's still as fresh now as ever. Flat Earth is still as pertinent now as ever. More so now than ever. So this is the sort of deeper layers of it. That's all I can say about that. Deeper layers. The dodo is not some dumb bird. Dodo's Day is the 1st of April. It's the beginning of the new year, the new era, if you want. Because the old era is left behind of division. I say we're under the age of Aquarius, and yeah, the Economist 2015 magazine, pretty much all the rest of the clues as well, all align to tell us what could be contained within all of these sort of series of clues, ingrained clues, the greatest story of us. So I say it, greater story of us. When I cut to the quick of matters, when I get to my bottom line, wow, yeah, the divided state of us. We're divine in nature. If we're not God, his, her, or itself, we are an aspect of God. And we are having an experience in division, and now is a time for that experience to culminate. That's what I reckon. Given all this access to information, we'll be given all of the abilities, live our life first of all, and you know, gauge everything in the proper, keep using the term, proper setting, the proper context, and well, come to terms with your being. I think that's what's offered to us, and I think ultimately we offer it to ourselves. This is why we enter into this experience. If you ask, so as you ask, so shall you receive, and that was sort of built on and extrapolated upon in the secret book of James there. And there was, if you noticed it, that diminishing aspect in terms of the power, and I think it's a diminishing aspect in terms of external power of the Father, because the Father is within us. So even if yeah, according to Jesus, from the secret apocrypha of James, the book of James, well, if you reach a certain, if you ascend to a certain point, even if the father is upset and offended at you and wants to kick you out, he won't be able to. What might that mean? Well, if the father is within, I guess. But, okay. Yeah, listen, man. It's at this stage. At this stage, where are you at this stage in the game, man? Where are you at? I mean, I think it's too late. I think it's too late for anything. I think everything is sort of decided, and I genuinely think we have like until April the 1st. All this Corona stuff is not about nothing. Um, Even if let's say you are, you know, from as your name suggests, you fall down on the concave side of Earth. Even if you're right along certain lines with your thought process, I mean, ultimately the question is where does that leave you? That would be the question for you to yourself. Or maybe where does that leave you in relation to others and their thought process or their pictures that they've painted? I would say it leaves you in the same position. I would say it leaves me in the same position. You're on your own with your thoughts in this one. But if there's a greater thread interwoven, and I think there's a whole point, if there's a greater thread interwoven for us, there there for us to cling to, there for us to sort of grasp and to follow and to grapple along, well, then that makes all the difference. And in a sense, it's a great consolation. It's a great consolation. And when you compare it to, well, how things seem, look at how things seem. Look at how empty everything seems. Look at how hopeless everything seems. When you have that to cling to, I was going to say, even if it's phantasmagoric, even if it's a creation of craft. My mother actually mentioned it. My mother actually mentioned John Nash the other day. Was it today or relatively recently? I showed her my book. I just showed her a few things that I wrote down, right? I just showed her like a few pages. Or actually, I told her to write down. I kept a diary from like, so I was 8 days incarcerated, but they gave me the book after about 5 days. Well, they gave it to me earlier than that, but there was a different name because the name on the guy in the cell, William Kilaki. So I said, that's not mine, so I can't take that. But anyway, they gave me this, and I kept the diary just for the last day or two. Actually, maybe I should read that, should I? I probably should read that because I'm not hiding anything. I'm not embarrassed by anything, even though I'd probably be embarrassed reading back what I wrote. But I wouldn't be really. I probably should read that. So only 3 pages of it. So that's 2 days of a diary. Just 3 foolscap pages, right? 2.5, no, 3 foolscap pages. But I showed her some of the stuff at the start of it. And it looks crazy shit, like it looks, if you're looking at that, let me show you something. If you're looking at that, you're going, what the fuck? I mean, this is fucking, and that's immediately what came to her mind, John Nash sort of stuff. There's no way this is not complicated at all. It's just, it's actually simpling. It's simplifying. It's simplifying as opposed to complicating. But I can imagine someone looking at it. Well, just for instance, I was talking about the ST earlier on, and there's 2 words I made note of: studio and stadium. And just the order of the words themselves. When you think of the ST, star, when you think of certain words and certain letters as well as they commence words and are led along, Well, perfect example. The lower aspect is represented by letters like L, W, V, because everything points in that direction. Everything is biased in that direction. But the upper aspects, the T, I was thinking about the word perfect earlier on. P, E, R. So P, R, F, E, C, T. So the predominant letters are P, F, and T. If you think about the capital letter E, right? This is the potential, the E. Well, then it can go. If you go, you can go either way, right? In the center we have the H, right? If we maneuver the E in the reverse E, as we go upwards we get the capital T, right? When we bring everything together, as we go downwards, then we get the two L's, right? So this is the sort of distinction there, the basic distinction, up and down distinction, and just the transforming of the structure of the letter itself, looking at the order as well. But yeah, to me, I'm written off immediately. I need a psychiatrist. I'm living in a fantasy world. I've been got by conspiracy agents, and that's all that needs to happen. You know what I mean? So I mean, we can go from there. But um, yeah, I think that's. I'm really trying to figure out what's already written. You know what I mean? It's not bringing on. I don't think it's possible to bring anything into existence. Everything is already known. The thing that you can do as an individual is add your own inimitability, add your own personal take and circumstance on things, and well, just get to read the story maybe a little bit quicker or to a different degree than, let's say, definitely from a person who doesn't even ask the basic question. You know what I mean? So, for instance, flat Earth, stupid idea. Yeah, we all thought it was, but me and you took it a little bit more seriously and delved a little bit deeper. And as time went on, realized, okay, it's a different story in play here. And that story is not just loaded with deception. It's deception for a reason. It's deception for a reason. But I'd be interested to uh, derail. I'll just call it derail. I'd be interested to think. I've been speaking for many years on what I call the mirrored water layer. So over an extended span, as water always, well, I mean, if you're a concave earther to some degree, let me open the back. If you're a concave earther to some degree, concave earthers don't like me either, because the mirrored water layer, where the horizon always rises, always will tend to rise to eye level. The further you can see, the further you will have to raise your eye level to look along the divide. Now, if there's illusion in place, we have to first decide that we're coming away from a spinning ball Earth of fixed geometry. So when there's an illusion in place and we see what appears to be a divide between the Earth and the sky, or the water and the sky, but yeah, when we decode that and understand that, no, we're just we have to rescale the z-axis and understand the basic intrinsic properties of water. Well, when we do that, then we understand that there's a mirror, what I call a mirrored water layer in play. So the greater the distance you're looking over, and especially through cameras, this is only mostly visible when you're trying to decode images through cameras. Greater distance you're looking over, the greater the compression in terms of the z-axis of the medium over which you're looking, which is not grass, it's not earth, it's water. So water, as a basic property, reflects. So anytime you zoom in on a boat over 40, 20, 30, 40 kilometers, and you see this mirroring effect, know that the mirroring is caused by the surface of the water itself. And this is key. And this is key for me to killing the concave earth. Sorry about that, but more especially the spin ball earth as well, the spheroid earth. Yeah, taking it beyond that, mirror sky. Mirror sky. 70% of the earth's surface is covered in water, we're told. Well, where did that water come from? Above. Well, And how did it come from above? Because there was a felling, there was a collapse, there was a catastrophe, there was a destruction. And yeah, as I said, mirrored water there on Earth leads to a mirrored sky, led me to a singular earthbound source, which is at the north center, for all of the skylights. First of all, that earthbound source, being in a destroyed state, generates a collapse barrier, which is concave of nature. It's like an eye lens. That's the way I look at it. Or like uh, well, I mentioned a spider body before, because you see it in inner lens and inner barrier and outer barrier. But yeah, this divided state generates the core center, generates the barrier, the divide between Earth realm and what's beyond, saline waters beyond. It also generates all of the skylights. It generates and there's the ether, which is the life force, which is the reactionary force, and this is destroyed, decayed system. Well, to the actionary force, which withholds the waters beyond. Simple enough picture, isn't it? The fundamental in it is recognizing the divided state. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? Well, fix it there, Henry, there, Henry, there, Henry. Well, fix it there, Henry, there, Henry. Well, fix it. I guess that's the ultimate quest, is for us to fix that divided state. Um, yeah, it's a very interesting name you chose with the apple as well. Once again, that's for an expanded conversation. I haven't sort of really thought about that, and I'm not going to stay on for too much longer here. Not that I've said anything already. I sort of presented what I had to present anyway. I forgot to present it last night, or not that I forgot to. Time sort of limited that and distraction, but that will do. Yeah, just to say as well, DRAM. I lost all of my research. My ASOS laptop here, the hard drive, just gave went kaput. Just gave up one day, and I have it there, but they couldn't retract any of the information. So I don't have any sort of images to show you. I could show you so many images, but yeah, I'm cutting everything to the quick here. And when I talk about Aristarchus is that tree of life. We live on the surface of it, fractal reality, where the immaterial expresses into the material. The tree I hold is intact. The other side. When Jesus said he came down from heaven, I think heaven, the other side. So the other side is intact, and we ourselves are intact as well, not of this divided state. And that intactness encompasses male and female combined. The way I see it, we're fallen angels. We have wings, and that in that incarnation, whatever you want to call it, to be more specific and to be more sort of exacting, especially as it connects to the story of the dodo. The dodo was discovered in 1598. That says to me, that's the year zero, the year one. So the Earth, this changing face of the Earth, this is the year it occurred, 1598, which is 422 years, coming up on 423 years old this April 1st, which is a fascinating consideration. It's a fascinating consideration. Also, evidence, lots of evidence, not lots of evidence, but plenty of evidence there's to suggest that like all of our history is bunk, everything associated with it is bunk, and coming away from materialism, view this reality as a construct, venture into materialism from the immaterial. So yeah, it's all like a giant video game, hyper realistic experience, but ultimately, where your story interwoven, like any good video game. And when all reaches its sort of culmination, its conclusion, its climax, we get to realize. So, yeah. Let me sing a song again. Not a repeat song, but this will probably be the last song. I'm up in court tomorrow, so I appreciate all the advice and help. I'll not prepare anything too much and just see how it goes, and I'll let you know. This whole fucking nonsense debacle. I guess the point is that I know the structure now somewhat, and that any hands turned, they can just declare you this or that, or unruly in contempt of court and put you away for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And you might think that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're on your own in a fucking miserable cell and you're not eating as well, you're not doing anything, then that 3 weeks drags in a sense. But yeah, I mightn't see you until after that. And when I say after that, I mean after tomorrow, whatever happens at the court. But needless to say, it's a completely fabricated charge, and well, the song that got me into it was this song. It's a hoax. COVID is a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona is a joke. But what are you going to do when you find out they went and made a total out? COVID's a hoax. Oh, COVID is a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona is a joke. Oh, what are you going to do when you find out they went and made a total out? What are you going to do when you find out they went and made a total out of you? Well, it's a whole lot of folks. Well, it's a whole lot of folks. Put on your mask like a girl's boy. Put on your mask like a girl's girl. Put on your mask 'cause the shops tell you to. Put on your mask 'cause the cops tell you to. Oh, what are you going to do when you find out they went and made a total out? Well, there's a whole lot of folks. Well, there's a whole lot of folks. See the light, see the light. Well, there's a whole lot of folks. See the light of heaven. That'll do for now, friends. Sorry about the voice and the volume. Yeah, take care until the next time. Love to all, and I love you, Steve.